I won't sing you, but happy birthday. I know you got a birthday coming up. Let's bring that. How old are you?
Thanks for all the Facebook support. It's like a nightmare that I gotta see from like the three different places. It seems I lost it. It's on my phone. It's on my tablet. It's in my mail. You know. I don't have anything else to do. I gave her all that paperwork.
If you want one later, sell them for $5 each. No, that is. The first name Kate, whenever you're ready.
One of them, yes?
You ready? Now? Are you ready? Wow, nice crowd, huh? Yeah. Welcome, everyone. We all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Pastor Tony Pierce. Pastor Pierce.
to be short of pastor.
Oh, I hate to do this to you, CT, but could I, since we're such good friends, I can impose on you? Well, I promise next time I'm at a meeting and you need a mayor, I'll stand up.
May we bow our heads. Our Father, we're so grateful for this opportunity to gather here for the town council meeting, for the mayor's state of the town address tonight. We ask that you continue to bless this town, Fountain Hills, Arizona, the most beautiful town in the world, with the greatest people in the world, the luckiest town in the world, where millionaires are being spat out every day in Fountain Hills. We're just so grateful. We're grateful for this mayor, this great mayor, who's doing an outstanding job. This council doing an outstanding job. We're grateful for the staff and the many citizens of this great town. Ask that you will continue to bless us individually and collectively. And let us continue to work together to make Fountain Hills a greater and better town, the best in Arizona, the best in the United States of America, and the best in the world. May God continue to bless Fountain Hills, Arizona, and the United States of America. This is my prayer. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, CT. Roll call, please, Beth.
Mayor Kavanagh.
Here.
Vice Mayor Lejay.
Here.
Councilmember Yates.
Present.
Councilmember Dickey.
Here.
Councilmember Elke.
Here.
Councilmember Hanson. Councilmember Brown.
Here.
I thought I'd come down and do it from here. Thanks, everybody, for coming. And we'll do it without that. Welcome to the State of the Town, 2013. It has been my great honor to be your mayor for the past 7 months and mayor of our beautiful small town. In that time, I have strived to be fiscally responsible, to facilitate an open, transparent government, to promote economic development, and to move forward with a solid plan for maintaining our roads and our infrastructure. But doing all this while keeping an eye to improving and enhancing our quality of life here in our hometown. That is something that is near and dear to my heart. Make no mistake, there will be challenges in the near future to reconcile limited revenue with the needed increasing expenditures, but I am up to the challenge. Our core services, fire, police, roads, and infrastructure must be adequately funded first and foremost. While our town has room to grow, government must strive to be as lean and as non-intrusive as possible in the lives and wallets of its residents and the business community. Overregulation should be avoided, and as the economy improves and more revenue flows into the town, we must resist spending just because the money is there, but rather allocate for what is truly needed and save for the uncertain future. As mayor, I'm always enthusiastic to attend events in town as your representative, whether it's a ribbon cutting at a new business, a social coffee with residents, a school function, or a park event. Supporting our charitable organizations, businesses, our schools, and town events is a most enjoyable part of being mayor. And I want to thank you for including me in your special events. I also love it when residents just stop by my office to talk about an issue that's important to them or just to say hello. Remember, my welcome mat is always out. I also spend a lot of time outside Fountain Hills, attending meetings and seminars and events where other mayors are gathered. My presence at these events is very important to our town. Fountain Hills' voice must never be muted, and when it comes time for the state or the county to slice up the pie for funding or economic development, I want to make sure that Fountain Hills gets our fair share. I also keep a watchful eye on legislation, which is easier for me to do than most mayors. While some bills might be good for some cities or towns, they might not be right for Fountain Hills, and some are downright detrimental. I am there to make our voice heard. While our staff at Town Hall has become lean in numbers over the years, the quality and professionalism they exude is admirable. I enjoy working with our staff, our town manager, our town attorney. I appreciate their expertise in their respective areas and how thorough their research is. I feel confident as mayor that we are getting the best information to make the best decisions. I am very pleased to work with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office and Rural Metro Fire and Ambulance. Their professionalism and excellent service are above reproach. In addition, we have an outstanding court system and staff doing a great job for our town. But let me get down to business and look at the state of the town. And while I hate to reveal the ending, Fountain Hills is alive and well and facing a prosperous future. Can we have the lights lowered a little bit? Okay. All right, we will draw your attention to the screen. We will start with finance. There are quite a few slides here, and probably a lot more information than you might have expected here. So some of it I will just touch on briefly. But I thought that all of these would make a good summary for you, especially in the future when we're doing the budget. This will be on our website, and you can refer to these slides if you had questions about our revenue or expenditures. First of all, this is our organizational chart. And as you will see, the top of the chart, or the family tree, are you, the citizens of Fountain Hills. And everything comes from you. Underneath you are mayor and your town council. We have one executive assistant, and underneath mayor and town council, you will see the municipal judge, the town manager, and the town attorney. Biggest category is town manager. He's got fire EMS on one side and law enforcement on the other. And in the center category, those are our three main departments. Community services, which consists of parks, recreation, community center, and senior services. Development services covers streets, engineering, planning, code enforcement, building safety, and all of our facilities. Underneath management, we have the Deputy Town Manager, who is also our Finance Director, Human Resources, Economic Development, and the Town Clerk. This is just a general chart which shows where we stand in relation to other towns and cities. This is the general fund operating cost per 1,000 citizens. As you can see, we're pretty much on a par with some of the other cities and towns, and you can see the ones that are spending a lot: Paradise Valley, Goodyear, Scottsdale, and Tempe. This is the number of our employees, as you can see from, it starts with 2001 and projected out to 2014. A lot of these slides you will see are projected out into the future. As a town, we need to plan ahead. Sometimes it's a little bit of guesswork and a lot of bit of knowledge, and our finance department does a great job of projecting us out. And of course, pie charts. Everybody loves pie charts because they're easy to understand, and these are our revenues by source. The pie charts are pretty much self-explanatory, and total of all sources is $31.4 million. And here are our expenditures. The same thing, you could easily see on the pie chart where all the expenditures are. Remember, these will all be on the website, so if you want to go back, you want to look at some of the slides, you want to print them up and keep them for yourself for the future, they will be there. And this is, here we have our revenues and expenditures just showing how they blend together there. And this is going out to 2018. General fund operating revenues. You can see our local taxes, 56% into government. 33% permits, license fees is only 9%, and building is the smallest right now, 2%. This is showing our fund revenue projections. It does not include the Elman property, which is, as you know, the state trust land. And you can see it goes from 2012-13 down to 17-18, projecting out the state shared revenues, which is our share of what the state collects, and we get a portion of that depending on our population. Local revenues, total general fund expenditures, and surplus. Here's our sales tax revenue going out to 2014. You can see the three big ones, 6, 7, and 8, which were the highest, and now it looks like it's not going up that high, but it's pretty much around the same the last 4. This is just showing you, if you're interested to know by category, where we get most of the sales tax. Okay, you've got retail activity, you've got telecommunications, construction, that's the smallest one there, and restaurant, bar activity. And there again, local sales tax by category. Again, you can take your time and look over these. I just wanted to include them because I thought that it was a good research tool for the future. General fund expenditures, 11-12, it was 12, and then it went to 13-5, and 13-14, 12-8. Highway user fund is our HERF funds. That's our share from the state, and we use that for our roads. And here this just shows our outstanding bonds, and the ones that we are really concerned about is that we have the mountains, the preserve, and we still have to pay off that, and the community center. Okay. And we have our general operating costs. You can just take a look at that. We've got our Big chunk is public safety, then we have administration, development services, community services, and the smallest is our court. Property tax. Property tax, this is our secondary tax. This is, if you see, it's based on a $200,000 home. Gives you an idea of the breakdown of where your money's going. So, looks like a big chunk is going to the county. You can see that the schools have the next highest, and then we've got sanitary's got a little piece, town, and EBIT, and there's the total if you have a $200,000 home. And now I'm going to get into some of our departments, and I've asked them not to go way back in the past. I wanted to let you know what's going on right now, the latest achievements, the latest changes. And we'll start with the sign code. This was something that the business community came to the town and said they would like to make some changes to the sign ordinance. And so a committee was put together of business owners, residents, council members, P&Z commissioners, and staff. And this diligent group met for over a year, every single week. And the sign ordinance was passed and went into effect on December 1st. Obviously, there's going to be some growing pains. We all know that. And we are grateful for the Chamber and the Business Alliance for helping us to educate the business community as to the new changes. But also, we're doing this as kindly as we can. When there's ever a violation, we give the business owner a warning, but also allow them to call town hall to talk about, what was wrong with what they did. Maybe they just needed a permit. Maybe it was just 1 foot off where it was supposed to be. So the town staff is here to help the business community to understand the changes and to help them comply. Fines are only if it becomes extremely difficult and businesses refuse to comply. So we'll do it as gently as we can, and I think that it's working. And I also want to thank members of the business community, because I know you've been kind of watchdogs of other business owners, and you've been going around and you've been telling them, hey, that's not legal, and, you really got to correct that because we want this sign ordinance to work. And that's great too. Policing yourselves is really helping us out. This is our median project, which we are using the design of landmark design, and we're going to talk about that today. And this is started out as the median on Avenue of the Fountains, which it's more like a linear park. It's so wide, and we've been using it for events in the past. It started out that the median needed full electrical and it needed irrigation. So the entire thing had to be ripped up. So we thought it might be a good time to add benches and some shade, and of course we had leaking fountains. So it was a good time to not only correct what was wrong with it. And I think everybody saw over the holidays how many times our lights went out, and we had one time we had the entire section was out for a very long time. So if you have to rip up the entire median, put it back together, you can put it back together better than it was. And so this project is, right now it's on schedule, and it's due to be completed November of this year. Pavement management. This is a management plan whereby we look at all of the roads and we allocate funds for the upkeep of those roads. There's one thing I learned about roads when I first started, and that's the minute you put a road down, you have to start taking care of it the very next day. And so this pavement management plan does exactly that. It separates the town into sections, and each section then is taken care of to keep it up in a good condition so that we can extend the life of that road. And now we go on to community services. Community services, we used to just have Parks and Rec, but now we have community services, and that includes our senior services. Membership in our senior services is up this year. We have 1,233 members, and I think they're calling it seniors and boomers now, and they want other people to join. You don't have to be a senior. You don't have to be a certain age. You can join because they've got 33 programs a month. It's not only classes, but educational presentations. They have a lot of nice trips. So anybody can join, and it's actually a really great and well-run organization. And one thing that they cover, which is very important to our community, is home-delivered meals. And that's a group of volunteers that do that. They had to, because of a new law, go through background checks and fingerprinting, and 200 of them did do that, and they are involved in the program. You can see that this is a program that is really needed here in Fountain Hills. Some people are very surprised at how many meals are delivered, and during the fiscal year 11-12, 8,419 meals were delivered. A secondary outcome of home-delivered meals, not only to get the meal, but also it acts as a kind of a wellness check on the person. If someone delivers the meal and the person is not there, not answering the door, then they are able to do a wellness check to make sure the person is okay. So it does have a dual function, which is great. And again, that's just all volunteers that are doing this. Recreation. We have a lot of special events that we're doing here, a community, in the community center, in the park, and trying to do more. The Mountain to Fountain race, we hope to have that every year. That starts at McDowell Mountain Park and Fountain Park near the plaza. And that was a very successful race. For the first time, we got the athletic Iron Girls Fountain Hills Women's 10K and 5K event. 1,375 female participants from throughout the United States and Fountain Hills participated in that. And we hope that that will be an annual event here in town. We continue to host popular events, Valley, Arizona, St. Patty's Day concert in the park, movies in the park. My grandson loves the movies in the park. And a lot more. You know, Oktoberfest was another great one. I think everybody had a good time there. This is a lot of great recreation for our residents and also brings in visitors, which adds to our economy. Recreation. We partner with a number of organizations. The Farmers Market, everybody saw Farmers Market was there today on the avenue, and they're there every Thursday. I think we have one of our vendors right here, Farmers Market. And we have Art on the Avenue, Great Stomp. Halloween in the Hills, that was fantastic this year. That's grown year after year. That was a wonderful event, and that's going to be another good one next year. Also at Thanksgiving, just before the Thanksgiving Day Parade, we have the Turkey Trot, and this was our 23rd annual Turkey Trot 5K and fitness walk. We broke the record, 1,240 participants. And that's Mr. Gobbles in the middle there, surrounded by myself and Angelica, who's one of our staff members in development service in our Parks and Recreation, who set up the whole logistics of the turkey trot. And I'm not going to tell you who was in that suit, but I will say it was one of the teams from my Mayor's Youth Council, but I'm not going to tell you who. Our parks are wonderful free recreation for our residents. Our Splash Park is extremely popular. It's open annually for 6 months. It's the longest season of any similar facility in the Valley. When it first opens, my grandson's the first one there, wants to run in, and I'll tell you, that water's cold when it first opens. But he and the kids just run right in. They have a great time. I just stand back so I don't get that cold water on me. But this is really popular with the kids. They love it. They use it the entire season. I think it's one of our best amenities in our parks for the kids. We've done We furnish benches, and we try to keep up on the infrastructure of the park. We've also installed a number of pieces of public art, and all the public art, remember, is donated by members of the community, and they donate the cost of it, and then they turn the art over to the town. We have currently over 100 pieces worth well over $1 million, and I've been told that our collection is one of the finest collections because all of the pieces are done by well-known artists. And we also have a great variety, not only the flat art and the bronzes, but quite a few pieces in the community center and town hall also. And our community center, we had 1,500 events this year with almost 24,000 participants. Lots of our civic organizations use it, HOAs, anybody can rent the rooms, and it's a reasonable price for residents. Also, the revenue was up 10%, which was really good news. And as you see, the bride and groom there, we're famous for having our weddings here. A lot of couples come to have their wedding in the park. We even had one wedding in the Centennial Circle. So that's another venue. And then they have their reception in the community center. Once again, we'll be attending the bridal show. At the bridal show, we hand out brochures and packages telling all about Fountain Hills, the facilities, and any other information they need to do a total wedding package, whether it's a photographer from town, the caterer, anything they need, they can get right here, and we can supply them with that information. Some other events, everybody was probably part of the Centennial Celebration, and we completed the final stages of the circle by installing the electricity and finishing the landscaping, and that added to the being able to use it in the evening for the weddings. We also dedicated the plaza to our first mayor, John Patillo. And if you go down to the Centennial Circle, you'll see the large monuments that surround it. And each of those monuments was donated by different organizations, and you can read about the organization and who donated them. So that's a lot of what we have in town is donated by our residents. This is master plan for Four Peaks Park. Hopefully this will be sometime in the near future. Four Peaks Park is one of our oldest parks, and our Park and Recreation Department has been going around showing the plan and talking to the residents near the park. And this is the plan that they've come up with right now. And hopefully we can fund this in the near future and get that park brought up to the same level as our other parks. Our parks are great recreation for our residents, great free recreation. We have so many different facilities, whether you like just throwing hoops or you want to play a foursome of tennis, the great skate park, the kids love that. So we have such a wide variety. It's something for everybody in our park, and it's a great way to spend outside in our beautiful weather here. Fire department. Who doesn't love a fire truck? That's a great picture with the fountain in the back. The fire department has started a new program that if they do a service for you, they will ask you to take a survey because they want to know what they're doing right and if you have any suggestions. Also underway is remodeling and addition of Fire Station 1, and these improvements will allow this fire station to continue for many more years. I also want to add that recently I went to an event at Rural Metro put on because they wanted to showcase a new educational program that they have for their EMS, and that is the head trauma. It is a new program where all of our EMS are trained in this new technique. Before, there used to be just more of a transport from the scene. We all know we got a lot of kids riding skateboards, people on bikes, motorcycles. You know, it does happen, and we hope that they're all wearing helmets, but even wearing helmets, there could be some head trauma. And now this new technique is that they are treated right at the scene, And by using this new technique, there is a better chance for not only survival, but for less brain damage. And when I went to this event, they told two fantastic stories about, really stories with happy endings about using that education for the first time. So our fire department, EMS, is always continuing their education to bring us the absolute best service that they can. With law enforcement, we have the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and we have a 5-year contract with them till 2017. Besides catching the bad guys, they do a lot of community service. Drug and alcohol is something that they concentrate on with the teens. They work with the Fountain Hills Coalition, which is part of the school. And it's really good news that the drug and alcohol use is down from what it was in previous years in our school. And I think that this coalition has done an awful lot to be proud of that's happened. MCSO also continues to participate and promote Text to Tip. That resulted in over 50 arrests just the first year. That's an anonymous system where kids can text if they see something going on that shouldn't be. Beer parties, drugs, anything that they witness. But there's also another side to this. I heard a couple of good stories about kids putting in a text tip that they felt that one of the other students was possibly in danger of hurting himself. And they were able to send someone right away and prevent that almost tragedy. So besides catching people doing something wrong, this can also be very beneficial for the community. And I'm so glad the kids are really using it. NCSO holds quarterly community open houses, and Captain Joe presents not only crime statistics, you can look at what's going on in your neighborhood. He has lots of brochures that he gives out, and is there to answer all kinds of questions. Anything you've ever wanted to ask about what goes on in your neighborhood or in the town, or just general questions. So when he does have that quarterly meeting, it's held at the community center, and it is really a good thing to attend. MCSO also partners with the town for Midnight Madness, which is a very popular event for the kids. And they also have this new enforcement activity called the Power Squad. This is something new. 3 deputies and 3 detectives. The squad works together during the week to investigate crimes and is also ready to respond to situations that might require special attention. So they also are always thinking up new ways to keep us safe and also new ways to help out the community. We also have at our disposal, you see the police car, you see the helicopter. If we have any need for any other services, if we should ever need a SWAT team, if we should ever need search and rescue dogs or drug sniffing dogs, all of that is at our disposal, part of the contract with Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. And our volunteer program. We've got a great volunteer program. We couldn't do most of the things we do without all the volunteers that we have. And I just want to mention first that we have 64 people that are on our boards and commissions. And a lot of people don't really think of them as being volunteers because they're appointed, but they are volunteers. And they do put in a lot of hours on the 9 boards and commissions. Our volunteers participate in our special events. If it's something going on at the park or the community center, they sign up to help out. As I mentioned before, they do the Home Delivered Meals program. Give a Lift is a really good program. We don't have any bus transportation or any other kind of transportation like they would have at some of the other cities. So we have a volunteer program, and I'll tell you, I have to give these volunteers credit because they not only volunteer to drive people to medical appointments or to get medical tests, but they use their own cars to do it. So I think that's really tremendous, and they're really very giving people to do that. It's a small program with how many volunteers we have, and since they use their own cars, It is a program that's limited only to medical needs. Then we have our art docents in our Save Our Sculptures program. The art docents are trained. They know all about the sculptures and the art pieces. They take people on art tours. And our Save Our Sculptures program is a group of volunteers that cleans the sculptures. The sculptures do need a lot of upkeep, and they have volunteers to come out periodically to clean them. We also have many volunteers that help out in our different town departments. More volunteers. We've had a volunteer club and organization fair. 45 organizations and clubs participated. When we have this again, if you have some free time and you're thinking about you want to volunteer, but you're not quite sure what you might be interested in or where you could fit in, you can come down to the fair and just browse and look at all of the different organizations, and maybe you'll see something that you might like. A great day that we have is Make a Difference Day, and this was our 4th annual one. Approximately 330 citizens offered 4 hours of volunteer service at 33 work sites throughout the town. How that works is that people who are elderly or disabled, who possibly can't do painting in their house or their yard, maybe they have a gate that's broken, need some repair. A lot of it is just removing brush from their yards, and we have volunteers that sign up on that day, and they go out and they do all the work. And I tell you, a lot of them gave a lot more than 4 hours of work, and I know that some of them go back to still help those people during the year, and not just on that one day. My Mayor's Youth Council was out there helping on Make a Difference Day. There's Madeline there with her pink brush up in the air, and we all painted this wall. That was part of a housing. There was a housing development, and they have constant graffiti. We painted the whole wall. It was really great fun, and the kids did a great job. And that picture on the right is kind of hard to see. It's a little dark. That was the original small group, but now we have 16 high school students dedicated to serving the community, volunteering, and civic participation. We started out with an overnight retreat for leadership skills and to set our goals for the year. We had that here we had that over at the community center. We slept overnight in sleeping bags on the floor. I can tell you that the older people were a little sore in the morning sleeping on the floor. But it was a lot of fun. We planned community service projects. The Gingerbread Junction holiday event that was at the community center. The Mayor's Youth Council was there to help out. They are currently doing town staff interviews to learn from each person in town hall what their job is, what they do, so they can learn about how government works. They're also going to be creating public safety announcements on youth events, and that's going to be broadcast on Channel 11. We are also, and this is going to be a lot of fun, developing a youth talk show, and they're all excited about that, and our IT department is helping us. Mike is helping us out with that, and you see him in the picture along with Heather, who's also helping me lead the group. And to finish off our government, knowledge of government, we'll be taking a trip to the Capitol and visiting all of the legislators there. And just Gingerbread Junction, as I mentioned, it was the 8th annual holiday party. A lot of people came out, lots of kids. They all made ornaments for the community tree. We also have quarterly volunteer coffees with guest speakers. And we have one annual celebration to thank all of the volunteers for what they do all year. And you just see some pictures there of some of the seniors and the gingerbread that's one of our Mayor's Youth Council teams, Kaylin, helping out that little guy there make something for the tree. In conclusion, moving forward in 2013 to make Fountain Hills the very best place to live, work, learn, and play. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. I hope this has been useful to you, and I'm very excited for the next year. we have some council members' birthdays that I'm pleased to announce. Councilmember Dickey, her birthday is on the 18th. Councilmember Hanson on the 20th. Councilmember Yates on the 28th. Happy birthday to all of you. All right, we've got our podium set up, and we have a special guest, Supervisor Steve Dupree of the Maricopa County Board of Supervisors. And it's all yours, Steve. Thank you so much for coming.
That was impressive to turn that around so quickly. But I'm going to apologize to all of you to have my back to you. But thank you. And if I can, Madam Mayor and council members, introduce Katie Prendergast, who is my Deputy Chief of Staff. She can wave to the crowd. And it's day 9, and we're both still standing. Paige Gonzalez is my Chief of Staff that I hired out of the Governor's office. Katie came from retiring Senator John Kyle's office. So I'm well represented, and through that, all of you are well represented. I had the honor to meet many of the council members, of course, Mayor Kavanagh during the campaign trail, but those of you who I hadn't had the opportunity to meet until tonight, it's great to meet you. And the town manager, thank you for the invitation. I'll tell you, this is a pattern. The first phone call I received as a candidate was from residents of Fountain Hills. The first time I'm actually having the opportunity to come and speak, it's to all of you. And wearing my other hat, many of you know the job of a Maricopa County supervisor, or many supervisors, is part-time. My full-time job, my other part-time job, I should say, is that as President and CEO of the Arizona Restaurant Association. And I'm often asked, what is your favorite restaurant? Which is a deal killer for many. And I, of course, answer all 2,500 members of the Arizona Restaurant Association. But I will tell you that if I'm ever asked if I had to favor one town, one city, it's going to be Fountain Hills. You guys have been terrific. The more I learn about Fountain Hills, the more I love it. I don't know if I can move here just yet, but I will tell you we're doing our family picture here in Fountain Hills in just a few weeks. So thank you for all your hospitality, and thank you for having me here tonight. Just a few comments. I know you have a healthy agenda, but I wanted to raise a few points that I think are important. One, during the campaign, I had 3 priorities, and I listened. I think that's the most important thing, is I listened during the campaign to see what the issues we're facing in all of the cities within my district, which is District 2. Maricopa County is the 4th largest county in the nation. We have about 4 million people. We are bigger than some states. We have 13,000 employees, and we have a budget of about $2.3 billion. So it's very meaningful. But along the campaign trail, what I tried to do is one of the priorities was to work with municipalities to increase the communication. Because if we're not problem solving together, we're not problem solving at all. And these small little issues can quickly arise to big issues. So that is something that I've really focused in on, as well as government reform, as well as trying to bring back a steady hand to the board, where we've had some pretty exciting times in recent years, as many of you know, as well as a conservative philosophy on how we can do things and do things better. But let me tell you, one thing we've done, just a couple things in just a matter of 9 days. Your Fountain Hills Library is a big, important part of what we do. The Friends of the Library sent us a check. One of the first things I voted on last Wednesday was to receive a check from the Friends of the Library here in Fountain Hills for $7,000 and some dollars. I'm sure the town manager knows the exact amount. But that needs to be recognized. So what did we do? We sent a thank you letter, making sure that we demonstrate that appreciation. I met with a zoning attorney on a neighboring project, and the first question out of my mouth, Katie will back me up, was, what does the town of Fountain Hills think about this? What are their thoughts? What are their ideas? Mayor Kavanagh's husband, his office called me this morning. There was an issue that is county related that he somewhat dealt with at the legislature, but didn't feel the need to run another piece of legislation, and asked that I step in and do something about it. That's working together 9 days in. That increase in communication 9 days in. how better do we do that? Mayor Kavanagh in her State of the City just now said about our relationship with the Sheriff's Office. It's my job to make sure that Sheriff Arpaio and his team have the tools they need to do their job. He's an elected official. He has a job to do, and it's our job to ensure that he can do that accurately and effectively. You pay us over $2 million. You pay the county over $2 million for that service every year, and we better make sure that we're living up to the service of the county, not just the Sheriff's Office, but as a county for the dollars you pay us. That's very important to me, and that's something that I certainly want to do. And the mayor just mentioned the number of employees you have. That means you have to do a lot more with less. And how do we work together to make sure that from an intergovernmental side that we can accomplish these things? One thing that I've really focused on, just the property tax rate's a very big deal to me. I think property taxes are a big deal. You saw the $665 example that you gave. It's a very important issue to families, to single taxpayers, to single moms. And we now discuss that. We've begun conversations on the tax rate, and we don't set the rate till August. I think I'm still relatively popular, but the honeymoon wore off very quickly because my position is this, that how can we raise a tax rate right now? We might have a shortfall from the county perspective, but how do we bring about a business approach to solving those problems? This is going to bore you, but I went to the dentist this morning, and I was checking out, and the young lady at the front desk was talking to me about how her first check, which many Americans, not just Arizonans, got their first check of the year this week, and it was a little bit less. Even if it's $100 and you get paid twice a month, that's what, $2,400 a year. So in the county, we might think, oh, you know what, it's just a few extra $100. Well, it adds up quickly. So my commitment to you is I am going to stay as strident as I was in the campaign and as strident as I've been the past 9 days to ensure that we don't have to raise that property tax rate. Now, assessed values might come up. That's not a whole lot that I can do to control that. But one thing we do have oversight over, one thing we have discretion over, is that tax rate, and that's a very big deal. And we're going to focus, as a business would do, as Mr. Brown would do in his business, and as Mr. Elke and others would do in their businesses, to make sure we can cut spending or we can find some kind of revenue to make up for that shortfall. So I want to make sure I stress that because I think that's important to towns as well, to make sure that you have your anonymity from the state legislature, from the county, to do what you have to do. When you've had some issues that have been mandated on you that you've had to deal with, one, just a few months ago, I think, that you had to pay some dollars back for. So I guess all I want to say is that I understand it as a businessman. I'm applying that and in my role at the county, and I want you to know the mayor has a welcome mat. My door is open. You have to go through security, but it's still open. And I want to say here today that I hope I get phone calls. I hope I get letters saying, how can we do more together? How can we problem solve together? So I thank you for your time. I thank you even more for the invitation, Mayor and council members, Mr. Buchanan, and if I can answer any questions, I'm happy to.
Well, thank you so much for coming out to be with us today. And does any of the council have any questions that they would like to ask?
Just a comment. Thank you, Mayor. Supervisor, thank you for being here. Congratulations on your being newly elected. It's been a while. I've sat here for 6 years, and I don't think we've had a supervisor before us. So kudos to you for being here. I like but I like what you said, but particularly the last thing you said. And if you wouldn't mind, I don't mean to put you on the spot because I think I have a sense for where you're coming from. What is your governance principle or philosophy when it comes to preserving or promoting decision making at the local level, particularly at the municipal level? You mentioned one item, and there's been several in the last 3 years where we've received several unfunded mandates from the state, so forth and so on. So being new to the county, my expectations, well, I'd like to know where you're coming from there.
Mayor and council members, Ledger, the idea is, I think, one of confrontation has been in the past. So we've got to protect and we've got to put our stake in the ground as a city or as a league of cities or as a county or as a state legislature. And one thing that really propped up to me when I met with the Speaker of the House 6 or 7 months ago and I asked why certain things were happening on a funding basis, primarily with the county, he said, Steve, they're too busy suing each other instead of doing the people's work. And I think that part's behind us, Henry, but I will say that going forward, we have to get out of this silo mentality that towns and cities are in one silo, the states in another silo, and the counties in another silo, from computer and database systems on down the line. And I think once we start to break those down, which is certainly what I intend to do, I've worked with our government affairs team, and I am going to go down and lobby to the legislature about some things that were mandated on the county. And I want to be careful on how I phrase that, because during the downturn, we all had to put our shoulder to the wheel. And I think we've all done that. But today, unfortunately for the county, is because our tax revenues lag. We're seeing those dark days that the state as a whole saw just a few years ago. And so we want to go and say, we did what we thought was appropriate at the time to help the state, and as such, we're an agency of the state, so we need to. And now, can we send some of that ownership back? And if it comes to the cities, whether it's the 7 or so cities that are in my district, and the mayor and other council members come to me and say, hey, we've got a problem with this. I know it's not a county issue, it might be a state legislative issue. Can you help maybe join the chorus and work with Ms. Ugente and Mr. Kavanagh and others? Then I'm happy to do that. And I think that's part of the solution, is having a different face and having a different approach, and realizing the fact that we cannot successfully operate government when you're in different silos.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else have a comment or a question? No? Okay, well, thank you, Steve.
Thank you. Thank you, and Happy New Year to everyone. So we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Great, okay. Call to the public? Do you have someone?
Mayor, we have 3 cards.
All right.
Charles Herman, followed by Peter Bardell, and then Linda Bardell. Charles Herman?
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the council. I've been coming to Fountain Hills area for many, many years, only in the winter. I've owned land here for a while. I really like this area. And so it's not that I'm unfamiliar with what's good and bad about Fountain Hills. I'm very familiar. And one of the things that is obviously best in Fountain Hills, when I spoke to the council last year, everybody pretty much agreed on this. And I might say that my subject today is very limited. It's very definite. It's not as broad as the mayor's subject. It's not the county board. This is one thing that's very definite, specific, that something can be done on. And last year when I spoke on this and I said, you have a beautiful park and it's turning into a mess. You got thousands of birds out there. They're colonizing the place. I've walked around the park several times since getting here in the middle of winter last week. And despite all the work of the fine people that care for the park and trim it and care for it, the birds are making a mess of the place, folks, and you should know that. Now, everybody last year agreed this is a great park, it's a great thing, and yeah, we may have a problem. So I came here this year to ask what has been done about it. I thought it was a rational approach to say, well, members of the council, we talked about this. Everybody last year pretty much agreed, yeah, we got a problem, we got to do something. So I said, what should be done? And I know that the rules preclude your answering me and coming up with all the answers, but I was going to say, well, little or nothing. And then I thought maybe that's not fair, because I was and these things are complex. So maybe little or nothing isn't fair. So I decided the better answer would be not enough. And I can prove that, because I've been walking around the park. And I'm telling you, that's the best thing Fountain Hills has, and it's a limited problem. It's not as difficult as many, many problems that government you people face and solve and work on. This is something that can be done.
And I don't think there's enough done, because the problem this year is worse than last year. So I decided what I'm going to do is mention 3 or 4 things that could be done very easily. Very easily. First of all, nobody wants to tell some of the dear citizens they can't feed the birds. So if you don't want to get your fingerprints on this, you can go to the legislature and you can say, you know, there's a state statute that says you cannot feed wildlife in the state of Arizona except squirrels and birds. And all you need to do is get someone to add a sentence there that says, except you cannot feed birds on municipal property where it increases municipal costs and provides health dangers to the children crawling around and playing in the park. Just add that one sentence. You don't even have your fingerprints on it. Simple. Secondly, you can pass the city ordinance. One of the people over there taking care of the park told me that they wish that you'd do that. And incidentally, I think it's not fair to the people that work so hard to the park if you don't support them. They said, you know, I'm not going to get sworn at by nice people that are mad at me because I'm telling them you wish you wouldn't feed the birds. It just creates more problems. So you can pass an ordinance, too. The third thing you could do is you could just put in, as someone said, a little fence, you know, little fence around the water, because coots have a real difficult time. They don't walk properly. Their legs are put in the wrong place. And if you have a little fence around there, they can't get in and out of the water, and you could decimate their numbers.
May I interrupt you?
You have.
Excuse me.
The problem is, wait, I'm getting to the 4th point, and that'll solve it for you. The 4th thing you can do is you can take the birds, you can cull them by the hundreds and take them away. Take the birds away.
Why?
You can take them away because they're defecating all over the park and making a mess. You want to see the birds?
Mr. Herman, could you direct your comments to the day?
Okay. Okay, except I keep telling
And your time is,
how much time do I have?
you have no more time. You went way over.
Let me say the 4th point only, okay? The 4th thing you can do is take the birds away. And as someone in the wildlife department, the state wildlife department told me when I said, well, they take them away, I guess, and they'd be back in a couple of days, and they said, no, they'd be back in 2 hours.
Okay.
So you have to do that. And I hope you'll do something, because you got a nice park here.
Well, unfortunately, we can't answer to your comments, but I would direct you to contact Mark Mayer in our Parks Department, and he would be able to answer some of your questions in the future, okay? If you could do that
I would
during
hope
the
the
week.
council members would contact those people and support them, too.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Peter Bardo.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Madam Mayor, council members. I'll be a bit briefer. I'm a Fountain Hills resident now for about 20 years or so. I've raised my kids here, and now I'm working to raise my grandkids here. And as many of you know, I'm a new business owner, new retail business owner, motorcycle shop, Sidewinder Cycles on Colony Drive. I want to say thank you. I understand that you're renewing the contract with the Jumpstart Business Incubator. So it's been a tough road opening this business, looking for facility, going through the business plan, finding an investor. It's a lot. You know, I've had a lot of home businesses. This is my first retail space, and there's a lot to do. If it wasn't for the Jumpstart Business Incubator, it would have been much more difficult, and I don't know that it actually would have happened. And the town, bringing that incubator into town here, is a big reason why I'm able to do this. So I want to say thank you for doing that. And those guys are just amazing. It's Mike Tyler and Chuck Thompson and the other folks there. They do a wonderful job. And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Linda Bordeaux.
Hey, Linda.
Happy New Year, Mayor and Council. Hope everyone's well. Interesting. Another thought came to mind after the first gentleman spoke. It is kind of difficult to communicate with the town council because of the way Robert's rules for meetings are set up. For those watching at home, what I'm about to talk to you about isn't on the agenda, so by law the council can't respond to me directly. I wish there was another way that we could have a better dialogue for the calls of the public or people speaking about items, because oftentimes item number 9 will come up, we'll be called up to speak, then you all have this great conversation, and other things come to mind that I may have not had the same opinion or changed my opinion on based on the conversation. So I don't know if you would ever consider opening up some sort of dialogue with the citizens. Maybe it would be helpful to get ideas passed back and forth in a more easy manner. That being said, what I wanted to talk about was the roundabout that y'all are deciding or mulling over for Saguaro. And I thought that those types of things were supposed to be put in a road bond like they were the last time, where the citizens got to vote on that type of thing because they're road infrastructure projects. So I was curious to know why it wasn't going to be added to the bond or maybe put in a separate bond so the public could have a chance to vote on the roundabout. I have done some talking to folks, and in my own opinion, and what staff recommended was extending. I know it's a long way across there, so we have difficulties. Some senior citizens have a hard time crossing. We want to make sure our pedestrians are safe. But the staff recommendation of pulling down the 3 medians to make it shorter so it would be easier to cross only cost $150,000. All the other options that I've heard so far, like reducing Saguaro down to 1 lane and then going into a roundabout, would create massive bottlenecks, especially at rush hour. I'm from the east end of the roundabout, and they're sometimes not pretty. They're generally designed to move traffic without backing up in long ways. They're usually not designed for pedestrian traffic, motorcycles, or bicycle riders, and we do have a lot of them. Another option that I heard was putting a traffic signal in, and they're very costly. They're somewhere upwards $800,000, maybe over $1 million for a signal. Or a 2-lane roundabout, which could be, again, upwards of like $1 million. So I would implore you to look at staff's recommendation of just doing the simpler method instead of putting in a roundabout. I worry about the large vehicles like the garbage trucks, the gravel trucks that come from the Indian Reservation, and especially the tractor-trailer trucks that come to deliver to Safe Lane Bastards. They can't come down Palisades, and the up and down of Fountain Hills Boulevard is a little tough on the tractor-trailers, so we'd have to have tractor-trailers on there. I'm just concerned about people trying to cross the roundabout. It's already confusing, and if you throw in all this extra stuff, I'm just afraid it would raise safety concerns more than it would solve a problem. I would like to see our park accessible easily, and so we can join this together. I see my time is up. But thank you, everyone, for listening, and let's have a good meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Linda. Anybody else? No? Okay, we're going to go on to our regular agenda items. You're all welcome to stay, and I hope you do stay, but if anybody does feel that they had wanted to leave, I just wanted to give you a minute and say that that was okay. I know some of you just came for the state of the town and to hear Supervisor Tukri. We'll go on to the consent agenda items. First is consideration of approving the town council meeting minutes from December 20th, 2012 and January 3rd, 2013. The second, consideration of resolution 2013-07, abandoning whatever right, title, or interest the town has in the certain hillside protection easement located in Fire Rock Country Club, 9616 North Four Peaks Way, with stipulation to grant a replacement HPE. Number 3 is consideration of resolution 2013-06, abandoning whatever right, title, or interest the town has in portions of a certain public utility and drainage easements located at 11240 North Fountain Hills Boulevard. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as listed?
Mayor, so moved.
And a second, please. Any speaker cards on this?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then I will, any comment on the, can I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson? Vice Mayor Lejay?
Aye.
Councilmember Dickey?
Aye.
Councilmember Elke? Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanagh?
Aye.
Mayor 7-0.
We'll start the regular agenda items.
The first being consideration of an extension of the encroachment permit submitted by Carolyn Redendo, Sofritas LLC, for the purpose of continuing an outdoor seating and dining area located in front of the restaurant, as well as a performance area for flamenco dancers and other entertainment on the public sidewalk. Ken, you going to Bob? All right, Bob, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Sofritas Restaurant is requesting an extension of their encroachment permit. Their current permit expires at the end of this month. The applicant wishes to continue using a portion of the public sidewalk in front of their restaurant for outdoor seating, dining, and entertainment purposes. They also wish to continue using an area under the canopy for outdoor dancers and other entertainers. Dining area is enclosed within a 3-foot-tall wrought iron fence. This is a separation requirement of their state liquor license. Fence location meets ADA access requirements for outside the fenced area. Issues related to ADA access inside the fence have occasionally been noted by the Building Safety Division, and the applicant has promptly addressed them when they were brought to their attention. Concrete tire stops also remain in the front of the parking spaces to ensure that ADA access outside the fence isn't blocked by vehicle bumper overhangs. Proof of indemnification insurance has been provided, and the restaurant agrees to ensure that after-hours cleanup is done promptly. Some complaints have been received by staff during the year, and those have been outlined in the staff report, and the applicant is present to address those issues if the council wishes. Staff believes that activities like this help generate activity and interest in the downtown area when they're properly conducted, and that this location is conducting their activities responsibly and in general compliance with their permit. And staff recommends approval of the encroachment permit, subject to compliance with the codes and the annual review and reapproval by council. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bob. Any questions from council?
Yeah.
Vice Mayor Lizette?
Thank you. Hey, Bob, I noticed in your report, item number 2 says a clear path between the fence and the curb while meeting ADA requirements is now and has caused inconvenience to more than one passerby. That's where there's a street light and then there's a sidewalk and there's a fence. And although it meets ADA requirements, I'm not sure it meets the requirements of a lot of motorized vehicles that handicapped folks use. I've been contacted by a number of folks that are very, very concerned about that one particular area. I'm certainly in favor of extending the special use permit. I think Sofritas has done a tremendous job. Outdoor seating, it's a great place to be. It's brought life and vitality to the avenue. But I've been down there. I've observed it. I've been stopped by people that are disabled, and there's a concern there. And from a staff perspective, what would be a solution to creating more space for those that are handicapped to get through that particular area where the street light is, where the fence is? Thank you.
Now, we've had a couple conversations with the applicant, and she can probably address where she's with that about actually removing the fence. Now that the town has removed that requirement in our ordinance, it's up to the state liquor board whether or not they would allow her to remove the fence. That's one option. That would probably be the best option because that hole is just in a bad location as far as that patio area is concerned.
Mayor, if I may, it's my understanding, however, to serve alcohol outdoors, the state requires that you have a fenced area. So am I hearing you say if they remove the fence, they're going to stop serving alcohol out there?
No. What I got from the state liquor department was they require those fences primarily because the local municipalities do. It's not necessarily a requirement of their liquor license, and that they could review it and potentially waive it.
Okay. So I'm not sure how my peers up here feel about it, but I think this is an issue that needs to be prioritized and addressed, whether, we're up here developing solutions tonight, taking the fence down, or minimizing or pulling the fence in at that particular area. We had this conversation when we first got into this scenario, and that was a concern then, and it remains a concern. So,
What happens now, if you pull that corner in there where it jogs around, then you create a non-compliance issue inside the fence.
okay.
Right now, the way the fence is located, it's exactly in compliance with the ordinances.
Well, as I said, I'm certainly in favor of the business and what they're doing, but we do need to address that issue. Thank you.
Bob, has the applicant applied to have the fence removed?
I don't believe so, but she's here if you wish to.
Carolyn, can you? I know you have the application to have the fence removed, and have you submitted that?
Currently, I haven't submitted it. First of all, I'd like to say that I appreciate the town and working with Bob. As a business perspective, it's been very welcoming to open Safrita. I haven't had any difficulties. I know with the fence, I understand that there's considerations for all citizens, so I do appreciate the fact that you had brought up prior. We try to go into compliance with the parking bumpers and things like that, and it brought us into awareness to have safety when we're serving alcohol. I do have the application. I was going to go and talk to the Department of Liquor, and then I have to also, because I have another permit, which is our dog patio. So I have to see how those two, with the dog patio, I think I do need the fence. So now I'm trying to figure out with pulling the fence down, and also making sure to be in compliance when I do pull the fence down, or if we were to pull the fence down, that the alcohol, which is because prior when we didn't have the fence, like just that people don't pull out the seats and chairs and stuff like that.
Okay. Any other questions, or Councilman Brown?
Thank you, Mayor. Bob, could you back up one slide and where you have the table shown with the fence outlined? And if I can do this, my hand's steady enough. Are you saying if we took 18 inches here and cut that off at an angle, that would no longer meet the code or the requirements?
No, actually, that's not the problem area. This shows a straight line, but there's a little jog right here.
You know the spot.
That goes around the light pole. You can see better in this. You can see down here how it kind of goes around. Right, I think right here you can kind of see it. Not really well for you, but everybody else can see it.
Yeah, I understand that, Bob.
But
My
it's
birthday
a jog around the pole. That's the problem.
Councilman Elsie?
Well, not so fast. Let's fast forward a little bit. Let's assume Mr. Dendo submits the request to the Department of Liquor, and town ultimately says, okay, no fence. Still going to be able to serve liquor in that area, and so looking forward to some potential problems there is if the fence isn't there, but they can still have tables there. Where are those tables going to be positioned with respect to the sidewalk? I think that's a discussion to have well in advance. And also, when there's not a fence there, you got your car there, if somebody's having a beer or a glass of wine right there, where's the stopping point? The fence is not only, well, it helps keep people in and make sure that they don't go beyond, and it helps the business owner in that respect too. So, I mean, just being mindful, I don't know if you have any comments to that effect, but I just don't want to create a situation where we don't have a fence, but then we've got people congregating on the sidewalk that are blocking traffic that are trying to get by as well. And I know that'll be the business owner's responsibility, but I just, I'd like to hear your comments on that.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it with her and make sure that everybody understands what has to happen. I mean, it works in cities all over the world, so it's got to be able to work here too. So we'll just have to figure out a way to do it.
And I think that's why the liquor board decided to change the regulation of the fence, because it is in just about every other city that you see where restaurants have tables right on the street, and they found that because they're served in glasses, people don't walk away with the drinks, and you just can't serve anything in a cup that someone could walk away with. And so obviously if Carolyn puts in for the waiver, and I think that's fairly easy to do, I've seen the application, that this problem will certainly go away. I believe there's also, there's some sort of a marking that you have to put on the sidewalk to designate the area. It's not like a fence or anything. I mean, it could be as small as just a line which designates how far out you could go, and then that's up to the business owner to make sure that the customers comply and their waitresses and waiters know that at that point, that's as far as you're supposed to go. And it's unfortunate that they do have a small space, but it's beautiful Arizona. Everybody wants to sit outside, and because they have their dancers, that's even more popular to sit outside. I know it's very hard to get a table outside in the nice weather when the flamenco dancers are there. So I think that if she can apply for that, that's certainly going to solve the problem.
I think so. I think the state will also have their own set of restrictions and rules about not having a fence.
Because basically the liquor board usually takes care of everything with the liquor license, and they make sure that everything is in compliance with them, and we're pretty much just go along with what they say, since they're the ones in charge of the liquor license. Right.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to make a motion,
Yield.
if that's okay. I'd like to move to approve the encroachment permit extension for Sofrito Restaurant located at 16848 East Avenue, The Fountains, as presented until January 31st, 2014, and subject to the applicant continuing to abide by the conditions of the existing permit.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No, 7-0. All right. All right, we'll go on to discussion with possible direction to staff regarding the Avenue of the Fountains Improvement Project. Ken and Paul, you're up.
All right, good evening, mayors, members of the council. On December 20th, 2012, council approved a design contract with Landmark Design, and part of their contract requirements was to come back to council with the concept for the Avenue Median project. So Landmark Design tonight will be giving you a presentation of that concept, and this is to get the final direction of the scope of the project, if council does have any comments, so we can move forward with the design documents and construction documents. So I'll turn it over to Wade Falcons of Landmark Design.
Thank you, Paul. Mayor Kavanagh, members of the council, thank you for your state of the town address. Appreciate the shout out on our project that we're completing with you. Just reintroducing myself, my name is Wade Falcons. I'm principal architect with Landmark Design Architects. Also attending the meeting this evening is Mr. Don Campbell, Campbell Collaborative. He's our landscape architect. Capital improvement projects, as the name implies, are created by cities and towns to improve the living environments of its citizens. Municipalities every so often have the opportunity to reinvent themselves, to improve the quality of life, and at times reinvigorate its image. The project we're presenting to you this evening, I believe, will provide new energy to the downtown corridor, as well as address some of the needed repairs and upgrades in the infrastructure of the median. From the beginning of our involvement with this project, our goal has been to achieve a strong balance between the vision of the council, the desires of the town residents, and as well as giving consideration to the long-term efficient and cost-effective maintenance of the town staff. We sought to bring together a concept that will create an inviting amenity that will be utilized by the citizens and guests of Fountain Hills for generations to come. At this point, I would like to turn over our time to a key member of our design staff, Mr. Don Campbell. He is a landscape architect and has been instrumental in providing the PowerPoint presentation that you'll see tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wade. Mayor Kavanagh, council members, it's great to be here tonight. I got to tell you, I'm excited, very excited about what I'm here to show you and hopefully have you buy into and be a part of my enthusiasm, what I've had a chance to look at for the last 3 short weeks.
it is exciting to be a part of this and then part of a growth of what you have here. You have a gold mine. I was in Prescott a couple of weeks ago, and I was walking around the town square there. You know, you guys have a unique town square here. It's long and linear, but it really is inviting because you have a park right to the east, and that's a great amenity. And everyone remembers the park because of the fountain, and this will be another part of that park. I hope this will become another appendage that will grow and be a welcoming part of that park and be a part that you can really make as you continue to grow and work out the situation as I heard the lady talking about a little earlier with whatever you do with the intersection down there at Sorrel Boulevard. Tonight I've broken the design in two different sections. I know you guys are looking at this. What I'm looking at here is kind of a small design. I hope you've had a chance to look at some of the larger printouts that Paul provided for you. But what we have is an overall site plan. And basically there's an east and a west half. The east and the west half, and I'll start from the west and move to the east. The west half will have three different nodes, as I call them, three different plazas. We'll start with the west, the most west end, and then move to the east. And then on the east half, we'll have two plazas. The third plaza is not going to be touched just yet. That will be part of the development as you move into the turn roundabout or intersection or whatever you end up doing down on Sorrel Boulevard. On the west half, we'll have two water features. One will be in the middle and one will be at the end. And the far west end will be a dry one. I'll get into those designs a little bit more in a minute. On the east end, you'll also notice that there are two new water features, and one will be at the east end, the east median, and one will be right in the middle.
Excuse me, Don.
Yes.
Would you like a pointer?
I would love a pointer. I didn't bring mine for some reason.
Your dog and pony show needs one more.
Well, you know, that makes it much, much easier. Okay, there we go. As you can see, we have the west and the east half. On the west half, we have 3 different plazas. The westmost end will be a dry plaza, and I'll get into that design in a few minutes. And we have 2 water features on the west end of the plaza. On the east end, we'll have 2 water features, one at the intersection of Verde River Road, and then one at the midpoint. The main thing connecting all these different elements together will be a 10-foot wide concrete path. And I'm calling it the concrete path right now because we're looking at the different cost factors right now, and we'll be looking into this, see how those might work out and if we might be able to go in a different direction. But it is a 10-foot meandering path. One of the things I wanted to make sure we didn't end up with is a straight bowling alley out there. This is a wonderful opportunity. We have a lot of existing trees, and I really want to keep as many of those as possible. And we've done that by incorporating our design and moving the pathway around those. Also, taking into account what some of the requests for some of the different large user groups are out there, too. And we've been able, by meandering the path, we've been able to create some larger areas, so you have some room for maybe some larger events and some other activities that might be able to happen. For instance, if you look here, we have a little bit of a larger area, and one down here just beyond this second half of the west end of the plaza. As we go, we'll first start talking about the westmost entry plaza. And this one is what I was trying to do was tie into the areas to the west. Everything leading into the downtown area from the west is fairly dry. It's a desert region. It looks like most of what is in the Fountain Hills area, fairly arid and fairly dry. And if you move just to the south here, just outside of the city council building here, there is a beautiful statue that I think it's called the cowboy cooling his feet, and it's just a beautiful and neat little statue. One of the other elements that we've had in the park, and one of the requests that we had, was to relocate some of the different elements and some of the statues and some of the different artwork within the existing medium. And one of the points that we're looking at doing right now is since that there's this beautiful eagle's nest down at the far east end, and it seems to be hidden back underneath a water feature. I'd like to bring it out and use it as a key element to kind of tie into with the sculpture to the south, and then also tie into some of the historical value of what we see here within the Fountain Hills area. Eagles are just to the north of us over in the Verde River, and it's just a very unique opportunity to point that out to some people. The structure is beautiful, and I'd like to have that as a key point. We'll do some berming here at the end, and then we'll let that be an element that really helps tie that in. There will be no water feature at that point. That's what we're looking at doing. As we move down the pathway, you'll see at different points, there will be places where we will integrate art. Some of the different places where, as I've heard you talk about earlier, art is an important factor within the community. I love the art. And if we can give it a place for them to place that, that's an even better opportunity, a better chance for people to interact with it. And that's something that's important for people to understand the art and where they're going. And so we've created little plazas. There will be 5 different plazas down all the way through. So as you'll notice as we get to the east end, we've also relocated one of your key water features, which is on the east end of the east median. That's the boy and girl playing lessons. I'm trying to remember. Sip and Splash. Sip and Splash. Yes, I got it right. And I'll show you where that's located on the east median in a minute. But one of the other key factors that was in the original concept that we were asked to look at and take into account that you approved back in November was they wanted to have some picnic areas to encourage some movement and activity within the median and areas and have it so it can be utilized all times. And so we're going to create some picnic areas, and those picnic areas will have some shade by both trees and shade canopies is what we're looking at doing at those. Anywhere along the line, if you guys have questions, just stop me. Sometimes I get rambling and I get off my notes, and that's not the best thing to do sometimes. I know we're trying to keep this in time. The first water feature, and what I'll do is explain how we're going to do the different plazas and different water features. The first water feature will occur at the midpoint of the west median. At each one of the plazas, the hardscape nose will be different than the concrete wall. We're going to use concrete pavers with a 12-inch wide concrete band to hold the pavers in place. One of the key factors that we looked at was how do we make these plazas a unique part of the median? How do we make them something exciting where you want to slow down people? One of the things I've learned through the years of working and doing a lot of commercial work, I do most of SR's work, is that you want to create a sense of difference among below their feet, and which is something that we do very well with colors and textures and everything else at commercial projects. If you've ever been to some of them, you'll notice that we change colors, we'll change patterns, and like this. By bringing in pavers at the key plaza areas, we're going to slow people down, allow them to enjoy that area, and allow them to enjoy that space. And so we brought the concrete pavers, and then on this particular water feature, we will be, one of the things I wanted to do with the water features was create something that was, number one, cost effective, number two, water efficient, so we're not really wasting water, and number three, make it easy to maintain. Because if we can't maintain them, these water features won't be around as long as we would like them to be, or we'll be spending an enormous amount of money. So the whole concept here is to make them like a pool, make them simple like a pool, so most people can, we can get a good price on the maintenance, and the longevity of them will work very nicely. The first water feature, what I wanted to do was create a water wall with steps in it. At the top edge, as you'll notice, there's a geyser, but those will be small ones, maybe anywhere from 12 to 18 inches high, just enough to get a little froth from the top, and allow the water to spill down the steps and create a little bit of movement and sound. The splash will be very really controlled, and there'll be enough room around the edge of the water feature for the splash not to move out of the water feature and onto the pavement. Whenever you have that increased risk and hazards of slippage, especially with some of the freezing temperatures we've had recently, or other people moving about and playing with it. And so this will be a very easy water feature. The picture I have here isn't the best. This is the best I could find of the kind of concept I was looking for, but it will be a series of steps creating a movement and some noise and energy there. One of the other things with this water feature is you'll be able to see it from both sides over top to the opposite side. So there won't be any real true blockage, but it'll be allowed for some views. As we move further on down the pathway towards the end of the west and towards the east end of the east median, I wanted to pull a water feature that would tie those two together. Right now, there is no congruency between the two medians. One of the things we want to be critically aware of is that we don't want people crossing the median there either. Because standing out here, Wade and I watched several several people almost get run over as they're trying to move across the median. And so we're going to try to discourage, and you'll see through the landscape plan and by the hardscape, I've created a planter on each end to discourage that. But I also want these medians to look like they're together too. So the water features are similar in nature. What I was trying to do there, if you look, and you'll see in the next slide where I have some pictures, if you're moving from the west to the east, this is going to be a water feature where the upper pool will spill into the lower pool here. What we're going to do is have a negative edge, like you'd have in a swimming pool, where the water will disappear and go down a set of steps, dropping into the lower pool again. It's very efficient, easy to maintain again, easy to operate. And the upper pool will have a set of geysers. Again, mimicking what we have already out in the big lake. No way I can get as tall as those, but we'll have a nice set of geysers out there. So there'll be a series of 6, and there'll be different levels. You can control them to valving and everything else to make that really work well. And it'll create a sense of excitement and movement within that area. The other thing that we have here right now, the grading at this plaza down at this end is that it will drop off dramatically. So we've been able, by having the steps within the water feature, as you're driving up from the, if you're driving from the east towards the west, you'll see these steps. And we'll be able to pick up that gradient that we've been having a problem with there with ADA and some other elements. It will take away that. And so we're solving two problems by creating having a creative water feature there. And the water feature on the south side will mimic the upper pool here too with the same kind of geysers. One of the other important elements, again, as I talked about earlier, is we didn't want people cutting across the median, is that currently the curbs and the handicapped the ramps and the ramps don't align. So we're going to square, as part of the design that we've created now, we'll help square up. We'll help bring in alignment the different crosswalks and things of this sort within that area. And so we won't have all the confusion and some of the other problems that we've had within those areas. Here's the pictures I was telling you about. This is the one looking, if you're coming from east to the west, you're up a negative edge. The geysers here are very similar to what I would see happening, and the water drops off at a negative edge over here. If you're coming from the east to the west, you'll see the steps, and you'll see the geysers just moving about. The last and third, well, the last fountain in the middle of the median on the east half is what I would call a very much a Moorish type style fountain. And one of the elements, one of the things I was asked when we were looking at this and reading some of the material that was created by J2 Engineering was that you wanted something interactive. Interactive fountains are very expensive, unfortunately. It's kind of like creating a play water feature, and those get enormous to operate and install and keep and maintenance and the water costs are high too. So I was trying to figure out a way of doing that. And so what we've done is created actually 2 series of water features on either side, similar to what you see here, a very Moorish look. And what will happen is, as you're coming from the east to the west, we have a series of jets spraying the water from the side to side, and they'll land in such a way so that the splash will fall short. So we will control the splash again, which is a critical factor, and we'll have that crescendo. We'll start with something low at the east end. It comes from east to west, and as you get to the west end, it'll be even higher, and it'll be vice versa. So if you're traveling west, the one on the south side will go lower at the beginning and up. So you'll have a kind of a movement, a real fun movement. I hope you can enjoy it. And looking at those, that's what we were trying to achieve. One of the other things I forgot to mention as we go along, in each one of the main plazas, we'll be also offering some picnic tables and some to allow people to just congregate there. Bring the lunches over there. Have a great time and enjoy that space. Looking at some of the other elements, you'll notice there's a wall here and another wall. The walls are being built out of similar to what was already been done on the north side. Those will be built out of Gabion rock. That's the rock baskets. And the reason we're doing this is so we can tie the 2 elements together, and we can make this look very homogeneous. And so you'll see some of the pictures here in a minute how that looks. I think Mayor Kavanagh showed a beautiful one of our rendering types, which comes up. Well, let me just go there. As you can see, the rock Gabion walls. Also, rock Gabion walls will have some benches. On those, if we don't have the trees there for shade, we'll bring in some shade covers there too. So we'll provide shade, we'll provide a space for activities and fun. So as you can see, we'll enclose the pool equipment, the water feature equipment within a rock gabion wall, so they'll keep down the noise attenuation. So they'll help make that a very pleasant place to be, and also an easy place, easy to maintain the equipment. One of the things you see here right now, our artists added some umbrellas to here. I'd like to take that off of the picnic tables. Those are very expensive and difficult to maintain, and we hope through using shade structures and trees we can create that look and allow that to work. If you also notice, there will be crosswalks tying into both the north and south side at all of our major nodes, our major plaza areas, and we'll work with that within it. But again, you can see how you can move right through the water feature and move on. One of the other points, the reason we went to a 10-foot wide pathway was so that we could allow for any kind of tree trimming, maintenance, adding different, when the farmer's market or the different exhibit shows come in through, we want to be able to put up some larger tents with some other elements. We will be able to do that, and because the pathway will be such that it can carry that kind of a weight load and not have a problem. So those are part of the designs we're working towards. I'll show you some of the different elements that will be utilized in the way of equipment and furnishings. We will have benches similar to what you have on the north side, but what we'll do there too is also move a little bit away from the existing benches. They're expensive, very expensive, and maintenance-wise, they haven't held up as well as we would have hoped for. So we're looking at bringing in something that's a little more durable, something I've used in parks and also in schools. And if they can hold up to some of the schools that we work in, I think they'll work very well with what we're working here. We'll bring in 2 drinking fountains, one both at the central water features. They'll also have one so that it's handicapped, and also a place for the dogs to get a drink too, which is a key factor for us. The picnic tables will be round, and we'll also make sure they're able to have an edge for the handicap or anyone in a wheelchair or someone who just want to pull up a chair by themselves. The waste baskets will all match. We're considering bike parking, but we haven't really decided if we're going to do that. There will be 2 of them on in the main fountain area, but we haven't decided that we really want to move in that direction just yet. And last but not least, since I've seen so many dog walkers out there, we do need to provide for a pet station, and so we'll have 2 of those, again, both in the central water feature area. A critical point. One of the other things that we were looking at is as part of the original design you approved in November, was they wanted to accentuate what was going to happen at those plaza areas. And so, as I said earlier, we're going to bring in some rock gabion walls that will have a light fixture on the top. Off of that, we will be putting the equipment room for the fountains, and then also a low bench off of one end. Sometimes we'll have it off of both, but sometimes we won't. And so it works very well. And then this is an example of what we're proposing to use for a shade structure, where we have the bench like this. We will bring the shade structure so it overhangs the bench, and that way we can offer some shade. And that's the same kind of shade structure that we will be utilizing in along and down the picnic areas and a couple other areas along the park, along the median. I think this is the park, and that's what excites me for this and makes me interested. Let's move on to the landscape. One of the things that I think was we heard at when we had the last meeting, last city council meeting, was that there were several people who were very concerned about the trees. And I got to tell you, I was out here in 1981 for when you had your first Fountain Mountain Triathlon. We started off in Swell Lake, we came on over here, and I was part of that group of about 110 people. And I got to tell you, it was neat laying out underneath the tree after the race. And we did that for about 4 or 5 years. And I still remember how pleasant that was out there. And that's the exciting part of what we have here. We have the huge eucalyptus, the Aleppo pines, and the olives, and some of the carob trees down there. And I'd like to keep most of those. But we have to be realistic, too. Read over the arborist report. There's very good reason for removing some of those trees, some of the big eucalyptus up here at this end over on the north side. It is diseased. It is hollow. We have some problems with it. It needs to go because it is dangerous. There are some of the other trees that we moved down. There's leopard pine down here on the east half, right here, just beyond. It teams up with another leopard pine. It's hitting the asphalt, it's hitting the curb there, and it is in need of being removed because it's too close to the curb. Those are the kind of things we're looking at and what we need to do. There were several other requests for some of the others. There's some citrus trees down here at the end that just don't seem to tie in. We even have a Palo Verde out in the middle of the median. I'm not sure where that came from. And so we were looking at trying to make this as homogeneous as possible. And so that's where I came up with the concept of what we're doing. We are saving 19 of the 20 trees. I would have liked to save more, but we saved 19 of the 20 trees. And most of the ones we did remove were diseased or just really didn't fit the design of what you already have out there. Let me go to, almost forgot to go. You'll see this is our plant palette as we have proposed right now. Everything seems to work except I messed up. I added a Rio Grande Ash in there, and the Rio Grande Ash isn't on the Department of Water Resources, and it isn't on your list. I messed up on that one. So we're going to replace that with another tree. Paul and I will work through on that one as we work through on the design. But as you can see, we have an assortment of different trees, everything from olives to pines, a mondale pine or a leopard pine. I think we would make this a mondale pine because that grows a little bit faster. Going to a sissu tree, which you have over here on some of the new buildings. Looking at, we'll add some. Oh gosh, I wish it. Oh, the chipotle tree, which is a kind of a desert tree, but it has a nice pink blossom on it. So we'll be having a variety of trees. Yes, I'm even proposing bringing back in a couple more eucalyptus to kind of make up for where we're taking out some of those eucalyptus. One of the other things I've done is, it's a marathon my design. I've reduced the number of new trees. I didn't think you needed to have them so densely populated into there. It'd be nice to have that a little more open and have it sort of more of a park feel and allow for some larger activity areas. And so I've done that purposely, so we have some more open space. And we may even have to create some more open space if some of the youth groups would like to have a little more room to move about. You'll see there is a lot of grass as we move through. It is primarily all turf. One of the elements I want you to know about, and one of the critical points as we look at our schedule on this, is as we get down to the end, we're getting near November. It's when we're supposed to have this done. The only problem is our sod, our grass, stops growing really in the middle of September. It depends upon the nighttime temps, and that's really where it all occurs. And so, looking at what we have here, we're going to have to go with sod. And one of the other things we're going to have to look at is how we do that and how we order the sod. Because right now, if we put it in at the time frame that we need to have a grow-in period, a grow-in period means we have a period of time where the grass will develop its roots, set its roots down, and establish itself. And I really, really, truly would like to have 90 days, but that's a bit schedule. And so I'm going to ask for 60 days. And with 60 days, that means we're putting it in September. The only problem is we missed the time when we're going to have it overseeded. So that might be a critical point, and I hope that doesn't hurt any feelings, but that might be something we may have to look at. Or we can talk with some of the sod funds and see where we go with it. So we'll see where it all occurs. And so this will be a point that we'll work out, a detail that we'll work out through as we go through. But as you can see, we have an assortment of trees coming in here. I go through the plan, but I see I have really been talking a long time. As you can also see on the east end, one of the things I forgot to mention. Oh, let me point this out. The new location for the Sip and Splash sculpture. One of the things I found was the sculpture was sitting in that great big huge area of water, and you really couldn't get close to it. That's one of those sculptures. That's one of those elements that you want to get up close to and look at. And I'd like to encourage kids to go up and touch it. Because knowing the artist, and I've traced about half a dozen of his pieces over the last 10 years, he wants people to interact with that. He wants them to be a part of that. He wants them to play with the water and splash with the kids. And so I've added that in an area down east, west of the east end, kind of halfway between the midpoint and the other, and to an area, into a plaza area, so that the people can come up and interact with it. We're going to make it so that the water will have a place where it falls through some rock into a catch basin down below. So there won't be any standing water, but there will be water coming through the hose so kids can go up and interact with it. Again, it's a chance for someone to do what the artist originally wanted them to do, was interact with that water feature and interact with that sculpture. It's a key factor. I'm picking up more time than I should have. I'll look at Wade. Do you want to add anything more? Or you have any questions?
I'm sure we have questions. My first question is, are there any lights included in this?
Yes, there will be. And some of the things that we're looking at with the lighting, with the electrical portion, is that, remember, part of the budget was to pull that out as a separate line item. We will have some accent lighting in here, too, that we have been looking at, and that will be in key areas. For instance, at the different nodes. Let me go back. Okay, here we go. If you look at the top of the rock gabion walls at the main plaza area, at the different plaza areas, we'll have that as an element to cast some light down to there. We'll also have some lights on the rock gabion walls to wash those, to add some other accent lighting. The only thing I'm really concerned about, we do need to have some other lights in there because it will be fairly dark at times during the walk portion of the plaza and the walkway areas. Yes.
And the other comment I have is I would like to see bike parking somewhere. Because we do get a lot of people that like to bike down there, and we want to encourage people to come and bike down by the park. So,
well, I'm one of your cyclists. I live in downtown Phoenix, actually, and I cycle out here all the time, going over 9 Mile Hill through Rio Verde and come on back over here. And just, this is a great stopping. I mean, the park down here is a great stopping area for us as we refuel and refurbish our water. And this would be a great spot. I know we've stopped out here and laid on the grass a couple of times. I'm part of that group who's been through here a couple times, the Ragnar race group. I don't feel I have to. I've been part of that several times through here too, and I got to tell you, the park is a wonderful spot just to kind of lay down and relax. So I understand, and we'll incorporate that in there. The only thing we were worried about is having people cross the wrong place with the bike racks, but we'll put those in there. So they're not expensive, so it'd be a great element.
And the other thing I wanted to ask is, I realize there's a problem crossing between one to the other. I was down at the farmers market today and going over to the other section. It's always been a bad spot there. It's too bad that we can't. There's no way to go back and forth, but I like the idea that at least you're blocking it so that people won't go that way.
Right.
Yeah, because that's important, because if it's not, otherwise they'll do it anyway.
Well, that's exactly it, and that's where we've incorporated the planters here, and really encouraged it with the crosswalks here and here across. I agree. The first thing I did when we were walking the median was go right across there, and almost got run over myself. And that's something we need to stop, because there is no real traffic control. I've almost watched a couple cars run into each other, so it's trying to figure out how to turn there too. So
I like what you did with Sip and Splash. I used to be on the art committee. That would please them what you've done with that and the Rotary. That really wanted to make sure that was saved, and now it's actually going to have a really prime spot.
It will. And it's a fun element, and it needs to be a part of that fun.
And I'm sure that our council people have questions, so I'll just ask you one more that I was curious about. The concrete pathways, is that pretty much all we can do there, concrete, or is it cheaper to do the concrete? Is that what
Mayor Kavanagh, here's where we lie right now. The budget is extremely, extremely tight. Okay. We've looked at the other elements. We've looked at using pavers. To hold the pavers in place, I do need a concrete edge to hold those in. We can do it, but right now we're coming in somewhere between $20,000 to $25,000 higher than the concrete walk right now. Okay. That includes we have to put a certain amount of base underneath that, and what we'll do is put a 4-inch compacted base, and then an 1.5 to 2-inch sand bed, and then we'll lay the pavers over top of that. When you do that, then you get into some extra cost.
Okay, I understand that. Is anyone in the council with questions? No. This way?
Sure.
Okay. Councilman Brown?
Firstly, I've got Paul's email to you with a list of questions. Have you responded to these questions?
We have, yes.
Let's just take a minute and go through it. The half-inch decomposed granite is okay. 45 cents a foot, kind of where it comes in about regardless.
Yes.
Does the irrigation line include the controllers?
Yes.
Existing backflow preventers should have slabs and cages around them to keep the thieves from stealing them.
Go ahead.
Councilmember Brown, we have even looked at replacing some of those because some of them are leaking right now. So to bring it up to code, I think we'll look at those very closely.
A bunch more are leaking now that it's been freezing. I know. Are the deputy panels shown on the plans included in your estimate?
Yes.
Is the Eagle relocation part of it?
Yes.
Are the art and picnic locations included in the paver areas?
Yes.
I assume the units of concrete walks and plaza pavers should be per square foot opposed to the lineal foot. If it's a foot wide, it's sort of the top out. Is the electrical enclosure on the west median included in the hardscape or electrical section?
Yes.
Water features, are the water feature estimates inclusive of pumps? I would certainly think so. Is there a separate estimate for the relocation and construction of the sip and splash? Yes. I would add allowance for rotary plaques for the sip and splash feature.
Well, in the case of the rotary plaques, we're uncertain as to whether our original direction was that we would remove the existing plaques that were in place. There is one that is missing. Someone's going to try to track that down, and that we'd be relocating those, not actually purchasing new plaques, which I think we got a price for those. They were about $650 each.
Okay.
So we'd like to try to keep what we have and reuse it if possible.
Well, along with that, on some of my other comments, the Greening Committee is also holding their hand up to possibly support us in some of the tree supplies for some of the trees, possibly some of the labor, et cetera, which they've done a ton of work downtown, and we always enjoy the public-private interface. And along with that, with their donations to help pay for this, they would also like to add plaques to one of the avian malls or somewhere. So we need to kind of keep that in mind. Is reconfiguration of the median to square up the intersection included in the Brady River numbers?
Yes, it is.
Add allowance to remove the irrigation system. On the demolition, I can assume that's all yes.
Yes.
The only thing that we will possibly attempt to maintain or retain would be the conduit for the electrical outlets that are currently out there. Essentially what we did in looking at the costing for this is that we're going to take out all of the above ground as well as the underground infrastructure with the exception of those. The only things that we can't really quantify at this point are any possible interference that we might have with existing utilities underground, and we're going to work with staff very closely and other members of the water company and things of that nature to try to determine up front as much as possible where those problems may lie.
Understand.
Not to interrupt, but on that note, you did kind of account for that, though, right? This is worst case scenario.
To our best of our ability at this point, yes.
Okay.
We feel comfortable with the numbers that we're putting in there and we have a $50,000 contingency in there as well in the budget.
400 amp service?
That we will try to avoid. We need to get our lighting package finalized, and then we'll sit down with SRP. Matter of fact, I was talking with the lighting consultant today, wanting to encourage that we sit down with SRP as soon as possible, because their lead time on design, according to current standards for subdivisions, is about 60 days. And so we'll want to get in to see them with our preliminary design as soon as possible. Working with SRP can pose some challenges for us, as you may know, and so what we're trying to do is we'll make those communications and those contacts as quickly as we can to try to move that process forward, to determine if, in fact, that additional service is going to be needed.
And then we'll go to general conditions, and they'll be done with this. I appreciate your patience.
Okay?
Added cost for mobilization, demobilization?
It's included.
Okay. Some place to store your equipment?
Well, I hope to work with Mr. Gambacorna, who's the property owner with the undeveloped property to the south.
I've worked with Sam for many years and figure we can probably work a deal with Sam on it.
We could probably make it look better leaving the property after we've utilized it than it looks now. Do you have the dust control permit?
We don't at this time. We have that in, we've put it in our revised budget. That was one thing that we did miss.
Other than that, I'm good with all this. I'm sure you saw our tax is 9.9, not 9.5.
We adjusted that.
You need to work on that now in Fountain Hills. I've got quite a bit more, but I'll
Okay.
sit back here.
Thank you. Covered quite a bit. Can I get Councilwoman Hanson waiting anxiously?
Not anxiously. Yeah, you look anxious.
Go ahead.
We're talking about, creating this space that's going to attract people and be available for more events and that type of thing. So I keep thinking that down the line, sometime we're going to have to address restaurants. Someday, maybe 5-10 years from now. As you were going through the design process, in the back of your head, like when you're thinking of riding your bike and laying under the tree, that it might be nice someday to have facilities. Did you have any thought of where that might go in?
At this point, we didn't anticipate incorporating restrooms. We have that brings a whole other series of design decisions, and obviously there's security issues as well as sanitary maintenance, those kinds of things.
Certainly, I wasn't talking about now at all, but I'm just thinking, if we're creating this park, and as Mark knows, down at Fountain Park, we want restrooms at the other end of Fountain Park. So I'm just, we're inviting more people to come and more events to come, and it's kind of that unspeakable, necessity that at some point it's going to have to be addressed.
Councilmember Hanson, what we will do is we'll work with staff, we'll discuss that issue and see if there's a possibility of, if there's some existing underground infrastructure for sanitary sewer that we might be able to create a tap for future development. We might be able to dedicate a spot, or at least, maybe try to just at least anticipate
Artwork. Maybe you have to make another deal with Sam.
That's possible.
Yeah. Councilwoman Dickey?
Thank you. The olive trees I know like a long time ago, I've lived here a long time too, and it used to be like, don't put olive trees anywhere because people are allergic and they make a mess. So is that not happening now anymore?
Councilmember Dickey, the olives that I would be bringing into the area are the Swan Hill olives. Currently, we're not allowed to plant any more olives that fruit any longer within the state. That's a state law. And so the Swan Hill olive is the fruitless olive. It is a patent. We've been utilizing them for probably almost 20-some-odd years now, and I've yet to see one of them bloom. So the good news is, we won't have that problem. But there is one that I am preserving in the middle of the median that's so big and so nice. I know it's one of the trees that they kept on trying to twist my arm to cut down the maintenance group, the maintenance staff, and I said, no, I like it. It's too gnarly, and so I just couldn't get rid of it. So, but we're going to add a few more in there, but they will be of the variety type that will not bloom.
Thank you. And one other thing about the end of the intersection that we were talking about and that you brought up, I don't know when we're going to make that decision, but along the line, is there any flexibility while you're in the process that you're doing now, timing-wise? If we did go with a roundabout, we probably wouldn't need that little U-turn in there anymore. So just to keep that in mind, if we did do that, that may give you some space to do something.
If I may, let's go to the landscape here real quick. Where did I put that? Oh, here it is. If you notice where the customer is right here, what I've done is I've extended the turf over there already. So if we ever did remove that portion of the drive-through, you could just extend the turf right on through, so it looks like it's a continuation of the park. Currently, I've got a couple sketches of what I'd like to see happen here, incorporating the clock that you guys just approved last month, and making that whole park come together. It is exciting to see this as a part of this. Would be really exciting. And my point, and what I look at seeing doing, is what I'm doing out down here at the east end of the East Median, is to encourage people to go around and around instead of cutting across, because that would be very dangerous still. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Yu.
Thank you. Great job, guys. I appreciate the enthusiasm. And I greatly appreciate you saying cost-effective and along those lines. And I realize we haven't formally put this out, but I saw in the line item budget that you were looking at like a $6 a square foot budget line item for your concrete and pavers. I mean, I know you'd spoken with a general contractor, but I guess was there any flexibility in that? Because I'm sure Councilman Brown can chime in here. Because I'm seeing more like a $3.54 a square foot. I don't do parks, but I just
working together on.
Yes, we've been working on the cost quite, at Councilmember Yates and Councilmember Brown. I know this is a critical point that you've been looking at. And we have been, over the last year, 6 months even, we've done several parks. I've done a couple of schools where we use paver in this kind of a critical fashion. When I get down to where I have using like a fire lane, and that's essentially what we would have to have the traffic flow through down 330, is that I need a certain amount of base on right there. And that's where some of that cost comes in. That's where some of the cost goes up. Yes, I can go out and buy those pavers for, just the paver itself for $1.50, $2 each. When you get to a square foot, you're talking about $2.50, $3 per square foot for the pavers. But when you start adding the base, all the material, the cutting that goes into all those elements, it does move the cost up. We also want to be comfortable where we are with our pricing too. Yes, I've had a couple come in at $5.25 about 6 months ago, but I'm comfortable.
on that note, just for the record, as designed, and this is a not to exceed, this is still over $700,000 less than what the last proposal was, so I applaud you on what you're proposing. Excellent job on that, but there's still a few more bucks. Go ahead.
Mayor Fleming. Mayor Fleming.
Go ahead, Councilman Brown.
So, I would assume we'll put the same base underneath the concrete walk as we would a paver, if we're going to be driving fire trucks down it?
Yes, we'll need to.
Okay, so let's get past the base and let's talk about displacing the concrete. And what you've got on concrete, $4 a foot, $4.50 a foot, that's spot on. But pavers, you call and get a price on pavers and putting your borders in and doing all your fancy colors and all with all your pavers. I called a company that it was highly recommended to me. They said, Dennis, you're going to be in there at $2.80, $3 a foot. As soon as your base is in, we'll put the sand, we'll put your pavers in. And then I called another fairly good, the second largest contractor in town. He said, Dennis, you're going to be at $3, $3.25 a foot. Well, so we're $3 a foot. It's a $75,000 savings. And so you get past the base, and you're going to have to absolutely break my arm to convince me that pavers isn't the way to go. If you've walked around their fountain, if you think the birds cause a problem, look at the cracks. I mean, they're dangerous. We're going to end up replacing and redoing, and with all the trees we're going to have around it, and being in the caliche soil, they don't, as you know, I'm preaching to the choir, the roots don't want to go down, they want to go out. And so I'm still a huge advocate of looking at pricing out the pavers, please.
We'll work on it. Anything else?
Oh, I've got a whole list of things here. I could
Can
go through it.
I just ask one question before you go on? What have you done with Keith? Keith McMahon. His memorial is on the avenue.
I'm trying to remember.
Keith McMahon. He's, They put him under, you put him under the Palo Verde?
Hall knows.
Mayor, council members, we'll just relocate that marker somewhere in the project.
So you use the same marker and just move it?
Yeah, I looked at it, it has a really clear picture on it. I don't know if we can remove that and put it somewhere else, without damaging it. We might just need to move the whole thing as one.
Okay.
Just put it somewhere.
Okay,
So,
you put him somewhere.
Yeah, we discussed it, but they probably forgot the name.
I know. Yeah. Keith is important to us.
I don't know where Jimmy House is buried.
We know where Chief is.
Be careful, you may find something under that ashes if you pick that up.
Well, it was the 70s.
Yeah, you be careful there.
So I go back to Councilman Brown. Thank you for
Thank you, Madam
all
Mayor.
this research you've been doing.
Thank you. I've had a ton of help from citizens that have brought some pretty good points up. If we moved on the Verde River intersection, if you pushed the fountains back into the park area just a little bit, so if we ever did redo that intersection, we wouldn't be redoing the fountains as well as just the intersection. We're talking 10, 15 feet just on back off the corner, which I think is worthy of looking at. And I'm struggling here. We're going to put major crosswalks from the meeting areas across to both sidewalks on Avenue of the Fountains, but yet you're telling us we shouldn't take a crosswalk and adjoin the two park areas. I'm struggling with that. So once again, if we're going to put crosswalks out in the middle of the main street, I'm struggling with not being able to tie our two medians together. So of course, during the fairs and all such as that, we will clearly block it off. But I'm struggling walking across Avenue of the Fountains, across Verde River, and then back across Avenue of the Fountains to go from one median to the other. So, and that was a good pickup by a citizen. It would be nice if we could talk about possibly moving the trees just a bit further away from the paver walk, so when the roots come up, it doesn't hit pavers quite so quickly.
Councilmember Brown, if I may, one of the other things we're going to do with the new irrigation system is to encourage root growth that will move in a downward movement. And that will be done by bringing out a drip system that will be placed so that along around the perimeter of the trees, so it encourages the new trees to have a better rooting system, instead of just having all the water come from the surface. And that's the reason we have so much surface rooting. And we've really found that has worked remarkably well for parks and schools that we've been working on to keep that and make it work.
Thank you. Just a couple more items. And I know Paul tells me we're going to possibly be driving a bucket truck down through here to change light bulbs or trim trees or whatever. So if you study the entrance and the exit from getting onto the sidewalk with your wall configuration, we're either going to be or it appears we're either going to be driving through the grass to get up onto the sidewalk, opposed to maybe making it not quite so symmetrical where we could load a truck from the side to get past the first fountains, mainly at the Verde River fountains, or opposed to having to back clear up the sidewalk, which would be a struggle. But you might want to look at reloading those sidewalks a little bit. I thought it was another good catch. And once again, I want to put a plug in for the Greening Committee, because they are certainly standing up and holding their hands up saying we would like to participate in this. And if you haven't noticed, they're doing a great job for us. Once again, you guys have done a really good job. Your price is still too high, but I'm sure we can work on it. Thanks for your efforts.
Madam Mayor, I have a question. Andrew, since do we accept this or make a motion to accept it pending some of the comments, or what's kind of the next move here? Because I see there might still be some minor changes moving forward. How would we accept this or pass this, or could you elaborate?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Yates, whatever level of direction is necessary for them to move forward to the next set of documents without having changes that are going to cost you money to make those changes is what we need to have decided tonight, so that there's as little variable as can be, knowing that some things are just not going to be able to be settled tonight.
Okay. With that being said, Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and accept the design as it's presented with some of the comments and some of the leeway to make some of these minor changes.
Is there a discussion?
Second.
Do we have a speaker card?
Yes, Mayor. Jerry Butler.
Mayor and council members, I am as you know, representing the Greening Committee tonight. You've already covered a lot of the subjects that we intended to address or present to you. We're very pleased that you are moving forward with the project to make the Avenue an event mall or a park, make it more of an attraction to our downtown area. And we think it is the proper use of our economic development funds because it fits right in nicely to the vision plan that was adopted by the council in 2009. Since then, the Greening Committee did take on one of those 9 catalysts in the vision plan to raise funds to do some of the greening. And over the last 3 years, we've raised over $200,000 of in-kind services and donations and planted a number of trees in Fountain Park. Plus, we've done a lot of upgrading or sprucing up some of the vacant lots downtown. We're also prepared to participate with you in the event mall or the park, not the median, by adding more trees or raising funds for putting more trees into the event mall. If I know in the plan it says for 36-inch and 48-inch box trees. They're very large. They're also very costly. We went through that when we did the greening in Fountain Park. The 24-inch box seems to be a more reasonable tree priced right now. Yes, they're not as big. They don't produce as much shade. But if done right, they will grow. And the only thing that we would ask as we participate with you in this project is if you get the watering system in place with the idea that you know where the tree needs to be in the future, that will make the donation monies go a lot further, because that was one of the things we had to do in Fountain Park, was put in a whole new watering system for the trees. And the deep root watering is very, very critical, but also caliche is a big impact in that area, and some of the trees down there right now are the way they are because they're sitting on caliche. And I don't care how deep you dig the hole, it's a pond underground, and the tree roots are going to go seek their own course. So it is a problem, and it may exist down there. I don't know what's been done in the way of geotechnical work. But the bottom line is we continue to support the progress you're making in this area, and we encourage you to move forward. Yes, there are some details that we think need to be refined in there, but we're on the right track. The only reservation I guess I would have is as you move forward, make sure that in your bids you have alternatives, that you're able to take something out or not include it at this time, rather than sacrifice quality, maybe cut back on quantity and let that be added later, such as allow the public-private partnership to be created to raise money for more trees in there. But it may have to be done later. Maybe it won't be done by November. Thank you for moving forward with it.
All right, thanks, Jerry, and thank you for the Greening Committee volunteering. We love volunteers, and you guys have done a great job, and it's great to have you a partner with this. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further council discussion on this? Councilwoman
Real quick,
Hanson?
Mayor. I commend you both on what you've done in such a short time. I mean, when you were here last time. I really appreciate your sensitivity in dealing with what's there and maintaining as much as you feel is safe and proper. I'm enthused at what you've done, and I just want to make it very clear that the way I vote has nothing to do with this product, because I really like the product. It's just the timing. And we're going to be adopting probably a pavement management plan that's going to have to sacrifice other things, and so it's just, for me, it's just the timing. But thank you very much.
Councilman Elsie?
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. Very informative, very detailed, and I think it'll fit well within what we're visioning. The town is visioned back in 2009, even prior to that. This has been something that's been discussed for many, 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 many years, and I want to commend and applaud this council for going forward and making this happen after so much discussion in the past, and specifically Council Members Brown and Yates for the amount of time and the expertise that you put into this. And I hope that the residents of the town recognize and understand the amounts of money that you both have saved by contributing your expertise to this project and enabling us to go forward at the most cost-effective way. And I want to echo Councilmember Brown's last comment there, is it looks good, but we can do better as far as the price. But thank you very much.
Can I have a roll call vote?
Mayor, can I? Just,
Vice Mayor Boucher?
thank you, just a quick comment. Actually, I have no questions because peer council members have done such a tremendous job, particularly Councilman Brown, just shooting those questions out there. Do you work as a contractor? Are you guys in the business at all down there? I mean, I'd never know. But long story short, what I'd like to add to all of the questions, and they've all been answered to my satisfaction as well, is I really appreciate the work you've done in the short time period. It's been allotted to you guys. But even more than that, your enthusiasm is just awesome. And that's been lacking. And thank you so much for that. Thank you, Mayor.
Just you expect to get so many compliments, huh? You guys are happy. Good. Good. We can find you a house here. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Henson?
Love the project name.
Vice Mayor Boucher? Aye. Councilmember Dickey?
Aye.
Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Councilmember Elke? Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanagh?
Aye.
Mayor 6-1.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul.
Madam Mayor? Go ahead.
I'm here. What? Do you want to say something?
I just wanted to echo what Councilman Brown brought up. Our staff, along with what Landmark did, our staff really worked hard to get this done. I just wanted to give them an extra kudos because it works both ways. These guys did a lot of work, but our staff really pushed the envelope. So I'd like to give a shout out to our staff. Thanks, guys.
But Beth just showed me a note. Is anyone interested in taking a break, or can we go on? Let's go. We're going? Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Is that Bob?
Thanks, Beth. They want to go on. All right, discussion with possible directions to staff regarding initiating an amendment to the zoning ordinance related to banners for special events. And this item was added at the request of Councilmembers Brown, Elke, and Yates. So I will call on Councilmember Yates.
Thanks. Madam Mayor, I was part of the sign committee regarding banners, A-frames, et cetera. And although I'm very comfortable with the way it's written, I believe that there might be some sort of discrepancy into the interpretation of a certain line item regarding banners on special events, whether those special events are indoor events or outdoor events. I've read through this. I'm not an attorney by any means, but my interpretation when I read this is that it does not explicitly say that the banners are supposed to be used for outside events only, and I just kind of wanted some clarification from you all, the council. I kind of feel it can be left as written, but if there is a discrepancy right now between staff and how they're communicating the message to the business community, I think we need to clear that up right now.
All right. Anyone else want to comment? Councilman?
I'd like to get opinion from legal. Andrew, did you happen to receive the email from Sean White, Chair of the Chamber?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Rousey, indirectly, yes, I received it late today. I can tell you that this discussion is, there's two things. One, I honestly don't think that it's valuable at all to try and interpret through this ordinance, because consistency in the way the ordinance has been interpreted and supporting that position is what we've done for years. The highlights brought out in his discussion are not exactly as represented in the email, and I think it's fair to just leave it at that. What we really want from you all tonight is to tell us what you want from banners. What do you really want this ordinance to do and say, and we'll be happy to make it happen. We will put together whatever language is necessary in order to make it work, rather than having to discuss interpretations on certain kinds of banners in the ways that we would like to be done. I think that would be a more productive use of our time, because we can put together an amendment that makes it absolutely crystal clear that we'll never have to have a VA interpretation on this issue.
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Yates?
Then on those lines, I would like to request, I don't know if I should do it in a motion, or is it just directing the staff to do just that, to come up with language that's crystal clear on, I think, what the intent was of our committee, and that was that the banner, which has already been passed, it's already been accepted, but to include the use of these banners for an inside special event as well as the outside special event.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think that we all thought that it was, when this was discussed, that it was for indoor events. We don't have a whole lot of sidewalk sales or anything like that. And I think during a lot of the discussion, during the meetings, we had, the science committee meetings, they had discussed letting restaurants put out banners for football season, and no one ever said, well, you can't do that. So I guess we all assumed that, the banner would be for an activity inside, because obviously the football season is coming inside to watch the games. So I think generally that's what I thought it was, that it was for inside, and if it was for outside, then there were special conditions that you would have to meet in order to have it outside. That was just my interpretation. Councilman Elsie?
If we could, Bob, we're all talking about different things that we've received, or we're talking about an email that we received from Mr. White. But Bob, could you succinctly state what the issue is, as it were, or the misunderstanding as to the interpretation of this particular aspect of the town code?
As part of the banner ordinance, it's actually not for special events. Special events are covered under the Special Events Committee, and it's a completely different animal. These are for the small retail events, is what we're talking about. The banner interpretation over the past, since I've been here, has been that if you're going to put up a banner for an event for a business, that it needed to be outside the normal four walls of your business. It needed to be an outside event, sidewalk sale, in the parking lot, something like that. And that's where the, I guess, hiccup came, because half of the committee didn't realize that, the other half assumed, whatever. So that's where the hiccup is now, is because some people thought that it meant inside, some people thought it only meant outside, and we're just asking, well, what do we want it to be?
If I may, Mayor. With respect to the banner, what are we talking about as far as timing is concerned, whether it's an inside or outside event?
The council had already adopted that ordinance. It could be 2 weeks, a month, in 7-day increments.
So out of a 30-day period, you can have a banner up outside if you have, depending on your interpretation, whether it's an inside or an outside event, for 7 consecutive days on 2 separate increments of 7 consecutive days. Is that accurate?
Currently, under the current interpretation, you can have it only if the activity is occurring outside.
Okay. And that's for the 7 consecutive days. So if you have an activity outside for 7 consecutive days, you could have it out, you can have that banner for that 7 days, but only for 7 consecutive days, correct?
Or 14. You get 2 weeks a month.
Okay. One last question for me. What would constitute an outside activity?
That can be as little as putting a table out with something from your shop. I think there's a store in Plaza outside that did just that. They put a table outside their storefront.
What would constitute an inside activity that would...
I would assume being inside.
Doing business, basically doing business, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, how would you characterize? I mean, you had a special event is, I understand town staff's interpreting, if you have an outside activity, then you can have the banner up for the 14 days out of the month. What's the difference between doing business if I'm selling coffee and it's a special event, or selling coffee and it's not a special event? How do you interpret that aspect of it to allow you to have that banner outside for that 14-day period?
I'm not sure if I'm understanding the question. If you're only serving your coffee inside as you do it normally during the week, any other time,
right?
It's not considered an event. At least that's not the way we interpreted it through that definition.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't want to run down the path where then it depends on what your definition of an event is, and that sort of thing. So if it's allowed for inside, and you say you have a special event, what could constitute a specific special event inside the business?
We didn't. I don't know that we ever cared if it's inside.
But Bob, this is not special events. That's
No,
a different
it's a-
category.
Completely different
Right.
situation.
We're not talking about special events.
You'll see most special events in town. I have all sorts of banners and all sorts of other types of signage.
Right.
Those are all approved as a package. Where this is talking about just your basic retail sales. Sales events, sidewalk sales, whatever. Sidewalk sales, parking lot sales, that's typically what they are.
And a permit is still required for the banner,
If it's an outside,
for whatever it is, for the banner.
no, that was an over-the-counter review.
Okay, it's an over-counter review, but you just can't go and get one and put it
Right,
up.
you're supposed to give us that, we're supposed to review it for safety issues, and we sign off on it, we give them a certificate so that code enforcement knows not to go yell at them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Dickey?
So, Mayor, that was the question that I asked way back when, how do we define an event? And we don't. So that was part of the problem with, the whole sign and all the discussion we had about it, was because there's really no definition of it. So basically, you could maybe just have the name of the business on there, and so, or, the special event is just that we're open for business today, just like we were yesterday, or, if there's no definition of something that is unique or special, then basically we're allowing another sign for 2 weeks a month. That doesn't have to say anything that's different, or anything that means anything as far as something's on sale or really anything. So I guess, I'm not really sure what to make of this, to tell you the truth.
We don't necessarily need that definition. If the council tells us what you want us to do with banners, we will figure out how to do that.
But let me just clarify what Councilman Dickey is saying. So if someone comes for an over-the-counter, they need the permit or whatever, you're gonna be doing for the banner, do they have to tell you what's on the banner? You said something about approval.
We look at it for safety issues. Generally pedestrian versus vehicle safety issues. No, we never really ask them what's on the banner. We check to make sure that the square footage isn't over what's being allowed. That's about it. And make sure that they know that they're supposed to attach it to the building.
Okay. Councilman Yates?
Again, although I appreciate everyone's comments, the market will prevail for a small business owner to take time out of his day to go down and speak with Bob, and I don't want to say waste Bob's time. They're going to make it a end of the season sale or an actual event or whatever that terminology is. Yes, theoretically they could go down there and just get in one because they're open today, just like they were open yesterday. But small business owners don't think that way. Small business owners, having been one, is how can I maximize my time to the best of my ability to make the most money humanly possible? And for them to just go out and say, oh, let's go put a banner up for 2 weeks out of the year is wasting my time unless I actually have something to provide to the general public in hopes of getting more business in. So although I appreciate you're absolutely right, they can just say open for 2 weeks out of the year, but I just don't think a small business owner is going to use their time to do that unless they actually have something that they want to promote. And even if that was the case, is that hurting us too bad? Because then the onus is still on them to put it up and take it down. And at this point, since economic development is kind of our push, I'm more so pushing the fact that we need to clarify this. And secondly, let the market prevail. And I really believe in the business community that they're not going to bend over backwards to waste their time unless they have something to promote. Thank you.
Okay, and to that point, just like we can't dictate what's put on an A-frame because signs have to be content neutral. I think that falls into the banner category also, doesn't it, Andrew?
Madam Mayor, council members, I don't believe that the town has ever sought to regulate the content of it. It's always just the size of the sign. So really what was regulated before was that it was tied to an event, and the reason that there was a review process at all was because the event was outside the normal 4 walls. If the event is inside the normal 4 walls, there's not really any safety aspect because that's a permitted structure that's there and operating every day. So really, what we need to know from you all is if you don't really care about what it says on the sign and you want it to be able to apply regardless of whatever it is, then we're going to remove any categorization of a special event on this. This is just going to be, you can have a banner on your business, mounted on the business, not a flag or the feathers. But you can have that 2 weeks out of the year, period. We're not going to try and mess around with trying to define special events or anything else. That's our response to what I'm hearing. I want to make sure that that's what you all intend for us to hear. 2 a month, I'm sorry.
Vice Mayor Lachey?
Thank you, Mayor. I would agree that there obviously needs to be some clarification, but to help me get a little clearer about what we're talking about and where we're going, I just had a couple questions. Currently, our town code, does our town code define an event? Do we have an event, Bob, defined any place at all? Or, I mean, let's start there.
Yeah, there's no specific definition in the zoning ordinance for events. There is one so there's a series of definitions in the town code and the business section, chapter 8,
Okay.
which describes a number of different types of events.
Okay, so we have events, whether it's done well or not, we have events defined in our town code, but it's not in our ordinance. Has there ever been a consideration of taking the town code definition of an event and incorporating that as a footnote in our current ordinance? Because when I look at our current ordinance chart, there is a footnote there that has, event site plan, date, time, so forth and so on. So I just put that out for consideration. Now, the other question I had, Mayor, just to understand what it is we're talking about, let me give you some examples. That's probably the best way to do this. After the sign ordinance, and Bob, you can say that because hopefully you can help clarify this for me, and if not, then maybe someone can raise their hand out there and they can jump on board. The week after this council approved the ordinance, there were A-frames in front of businesses identifying the business, and at the same time, that same business had a flag, a banner, flag, what do you call them, those feathered, identifying their business. So that to me was redundant, and I've never thought a banner that says Joe's Smoke Shop has anything to do with an event, or to drive by Circle K and see a 40-foot, well, I'd say it was, Dennis, help me out, a 30-foot banner that says coffee 99 cents on a plastic pole in a tire with rocks mounted around it. Is that an event? So, Andrew, are you saying that content doesn't matter?
Those were not permitted. Those types of banners were never permitted.
Very good. So going forward, I'm trying to understand that, because if content is not an issue, then someone can just have, flags in front of, I'm not going to name businesses, 2 flags that basically say what the business is. And I'm not sure that was the intent of banners. And just one more thing I'd like to clarify, or probably make this more unclear than it already is to me, is that when this ordinance was approved by this council, A-frames were not limited to content, and by state law, and that was brought to the attention of this group and our attorney. What precludes Jane's Cigar Shop from having an A-frame where there is no restriction on content that basically says half-price sale? I mean, what precludes anyone from using the existing ordinance and putting an A-frame out there to promote their event? Now, someone might say, well, that may require 2 A-frames. Well, yes, it may. And I would imagine that second A-frame could have a generic message on it that would highlight their event and probably last a lot longer than a banner in the sun that fly around and so forth and so on. So I'm not solving the problem. I'm just trying to understand it, because right now it's extremely confusing. If you don't have a definition of event and you don't have any comments on content, then we're back where we were the week after this was passed. and this town looked like we were having a circus in it. I'm sorry, but that's the case. So whatever we need to do,
A couple of things.
thank you.
The banners that are allowed, whenever a business has a banner under the ordinance, the way it is now, you get one banner. You don't have multiple banners. You get one banner and it must be attached to the building. So the standalone banners are not permitted and they never were permitted. As far as the second A-frame, each business gets one A-frame unless they're on a corner, then they can have two. So the second A-frame may or may not ever come into your scenario.
I understand that. I'm not suggesting they have both A-frames out at the same time. It could identify some of these A-frames just say Joe's Smoke Shop, and under that it could have half-price sale. I mean, if I was a business owner, I'd probably accomplish that by using the same purpose. So what I'm hearing you say, and this helps me, thank you, understand this, is that these flags out there are not banners, therefore they're not...
They are considered banners. However, the banners, as they are permitted in our ordinance, are only permitted if they're attached to the building.
Well, this is helping me. So right now, when the week after the ordinance was passed and I drove around town and people had these things poked in the ground all over the place that didn't really promote an event, you're saying that in this ordinance, the way it is, those are not permitted.
Correct.
So, for example, on Shea Boulevard, the Verizon sign that's been out there for 2 years on the corner of Technology and Shea, that is also not permitted.
That's correct. That business actually has been cited for those.
Okay, thank you.
Continues to ignore the ordinance.
So I'm not quite sure what we're clarifying here then.
Okay, I thought, if Council online, I'll go to the speaker cards. We do have two speakers.
Frank
I'll
Ferrara,
get back to discussion.
followed by Linda Bordeaux.
Further discussion.
Good evening, Mayor Council. My name is Frank Ferrara. I'm the President of the Chamber of Commerce. I come here tonight only to do one thing. I'm not going to speak. I'm going to ask the town to look at what Sean White, who is a member of the committee, also our Chamber Board of Directors Chair, sent each of you, I believe, an email today. It's pretty much what I think Vice Mayor Leger was looking for, maybe some clarification. Certainly clarified it for me as I went through it. I know what a special event is. It's Chapter 8 of the code, the town code, and it spells out what a special event is. And we use that because there's a major and a minor event besides. So in any event, we do know what a special event is, and I wouldn't want to confuse the two as we seemingly have this evening with the ordinance and the special event town code. I think there might be a confusion. Semantics, maybe, I don't know. But in any event, all I'm here to do is ask the town staff, ask the council to adopt the chamber's position. This is what I'm asking to do. Sean put his position together as an individual representing the chamber, and I'm here to fortify that position and ask the town council to allow the use of banners for any type of event, as the town ordinance says, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Pardon?
Thank you, Frank. Hi, Linda.
Hi, members of the council again. I was at every one of the public calls to the sign ordinance meetings, and I went to the planning and zoning meeting where they adopted the recommendations, and the town council meeting where we adopted this that night. There was a lot going on that night. There was a lot of ins and outs and how to get everything collated to get it passed correctly, and I do recall conversations about these banners where the topic was we should remove that banner section from the special event portion that it was tucked into, so it could be used for a business to have 2 one-week-long segments per month to use their banner. Yes, it was supposed to be attached to the building and all the things ensue. The A-frame signs, I'm really not that big of a fan of. They're hard to see, especially if you're a little bit older, doing these, I'm like, what is that? So the banner can be very effective, especially since it's on the building. You have enough signage there to be able to put your message out there so that somebody going by can go, oh, that's what's going on there. In terms of a special event, and you can make up anything. You say, everybody who comes into my shop today, I'm going to give a great big hug. That's a special event. So there's a way around that too if you really wanted to be creative. But we don't want to do it that way. Let's just leave it so the businesses in town can, if they want to, and like Councilman Yates pointed out, you're not going to run the town hall 2 times a month to get these banners if they're not working for you. You're only going to do it on the slower times when you want to pump up your volume or things like that. So I would just encourage the council to adopt the banners 2 weeks a month for 7 consecutive days each attached to the building and so on and so forth. I am a little disappointed that we didn't like the feather signs. I kind of like those. They're pop of color. They just say something like one word here or there. I did notice that there were quite a few of them up after we adopted the rules last time. But to me, they're not offensive, and it's just a kind of a neat way to draw attention to a business. But I guess that's not going to work. So, but thank you.
Okay, thanks, Linda. Do we have anyone else? No. Okay. Councilman Yates?
I think we're kind of going through the growing pains of this since it just passed, and it's only been about a month. I realize it passed in December, but with the holidays going on. So to Vice Mayor Leger's point, there are a lot of things out there that are in violation. I view this as in my opinion, this was already allowed. It was just a matter of clarification. So again, I guess I want to reissue my motion to ask staff, is it a motion or is it more a direction? Andrew?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Yates, what we'd like to have from the council is, in the form of a motion, direction to go and initiate an amendment to the zoning ordinance to affect whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Then, Madam Mayor, I make a motion to direct staff to come up with the content so that banners are allowed for whether it be an indoor or an outdoor event under the same terms and conditions that we passed last year.
Do I have a second? Any further council discussion? Councilwoman Dickey?
Thank you, Mayor. Just that the idea of it, when we talked about this before, that I thought that 2 weeks a month was excessive in the way we were talking about it before. So I guess, you know, we make decisions on signage and how much signage each business is allowed, and there were certain things like neon signs and other things that really are fine that I could go along with. But I feel like, sort of what Linda just said, that anybody can make something up. It just sort of made me feel like, and you know, I don't see the definition of an event, so I don't think I want to support this at this point because it seems like it's an expansion of the use of the banner. So,
Thank you. I think also in that, and I know we're going to get some language back from staff, and we're not making a final decision here tonight. Now, what I think we should be looking at is the most easiest way to simplify it, where it's completely crystal clear, and perhaps it should be looked at is, instead of whether it's tied to an event or not, because we don't need staff running in and out. Okay, are you having an event? What is the event? You know, do you have a table outside? Okay, now it is an outdoor event. We should perhaps be looking more at whether, okay, if we're going to allow banners for a certain period of time a month, okay, you can have as a business, have a banner up a certain period of time a month, whether it's 14 days, 10 days, whatever that's going to be, and just simplify it so the person, you know, they've got to come in and meet with staff and say, you know, this is what it is and this is how we're going to mount it for safety purposes. They don't have to worry about the content. They can put whatever they want up there, whether it's a sale or whatever the case may be. I would imagine there's going to be many businesses that use the same banner over and over again because they're not cheap to purchase. So maybe that should be, and we just take the event aspect out of the language altogether and just say businesses may have a banner for X period of days a month, regardless of what it is.
Andrew, did you want to comment on that?
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Realty, that's exactly what I'm proposing, is that if we're going to go back and address the zoning ordinance on this topic, I want to make sure that what your direction is as a council is that you're comfortable with that as the result, that we're going to remove any clarification questions whatsoever. It's going to be very clear that it's not tied to any kind of an event, so nobody has to interpret anything. It's just going to be those days per year banners are allowed under the conditions above.
Mayor, if I may. And because I know we have a number of the folks that participated in the sign committee here, and Mr. Ferrara is here, and Mr. Sells, thank you for coming as well. Whatever this council does do, and I know that I was, yes, fortunately or unfortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, I wasn't here for that meeting on the sign ordinance. I was out of country. But sounds like I missed a lot. It was by design, yeah, a year in advance. I knew that night we were going to have that meeting. But, I would hope that the business community, and I know the Chamber, and I appreciate Mr. Ferrar's email that he sent out shortly after the town passed the new sign ordinance for compliance and education. There's going to be strict compliance with whatever the town code is. I think this council voted that evening to really loosen that in understanding and recognizing the need as far as businesses. So I really can't emphasize that enough as far as the compliance in the business community. It's, in my opinion, once everything is said and done, we've passed this banner issue out. In my opinion, there should be a zero tolerance after a short grace period, and then just move forward. And everybody's got to be on board. There's got to be no more excuses from the business owners that they didn't know. It's very easy to find out. I've seen the information that staff hands out that educates you on it. So it's got to be absolutely zero compliance and strict compliance from the business community. And, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may. Unless you can certainly comment before me if you'd like.
No, I just was,
You want to take the vote?
we have a motion and a second,
all right.
but if you'd like to comment, go right ahead.
Just very quickly, I voted against the sign ordinance, and I made it perfectly clear that night that I didn't have a problem with the whole laundry list of things that could be utilized to promote business. I made that perfectly clear that evening. What I did state very clearly is that I was concerned about electronic signs for a variety of reasons, dark skies, so forth and so on. So I just want to mention publicly, when we talk about compliance, we have a electronic sign that is currently out of compliance. So if staff's not aware of that, please take a note of that. And you may not notice it because the code enforcement doesn't work until 10 or 11 o'clock at night when it's dark to see that it is in fact out of compliance. As I stated a minute ago, I opposed the ordinance for that and only that reason. I am more than willing to take a look at what staff brings back with respect to this notion of banners, because I'm looking for clarity. And I was just sitting here when Andrew said that he would take the word event out, and maybe he should put the word activity in, because, just kidding. Because all of these things seem like just normal activities that a business engages in, and if they feel they need a banner for it, then I'd be more than happy to look at what staff brings back. So thank you, Mayor, for indulging me. I appreciate it.
I do have a motion and a second on the floor. So can we have a roll call vote on that, please?
Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Councilmember Dickey?
Aye.
Councilmember Hanson?
Aye.
Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Councilmember Elke?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lizette?
Aye.
And Mayor Kavanagh?
Aye.
Mayor 6-1.
Those that were here for this particular item, you have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
And Mayor,
No breaks, right?
and Mayor, I actually viewed the tape last time we had this meeting, and from the dais, someone said, "We're done." And I'm not going to name. I'm not going to name names, but I'm not going to. That's no longer part of my vocabulary when it comes to this discussion. Thank you.
I think that was actually Frank that said that.
What was the motion?
Madam Mayor,
Can we?
the motion was to ask staff to come up with the proper language in such a way that the intent, as I described that, for 2 weeks per month, whether it's an inside or an outdoor event, that it would be allowed.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I used the word event. Function, gathering, activity.
Okay, we're done. We'll go on to consideration of resolution 2013-2, approving the pavement management program and authorizing the necessary budget transfers to fund the program. Ken, please.
Mayor Callen, members of the council.
Does the council want to go through that presentation again? You've seen it twice.
No.
If you don't, then Resolution 2013-02 puts that into motion, and it's a staff recommendation to approve it.
All right. Any council discussion before this motion? Do we have any speaker cards? We have two. Oh, right. Two speaker cards. Who's up?
Linda Bordeaux and then Andy Mertz.
Okay.
My name is Andy Mertz, and thank you for letting me speak before you tonight. I would like to applaud you for tackling this issue. That road management is really in need of some vision and direction, and it's the entrance into our community that gives anyone new here, visitors, whatever, their first impression, and it's not a very good one right now. Swirl Boulevard, Palisades, Panorama, they're all in very, very bad shape. So I applaud you for tackling that, and having said that, it's long overdue. Spending less than 0.75% on a $150 million investment is very insignificant, woefully neglectful. And I know we can't do everything all at once, and I know we did not get the bond issue passed in the last attempt, but I urge you to aggressively pursue that again, and I think with the proper presentation it can be passed. I know you're skittish about doing it, but it's your obligation to protect our infrastructure. The roads are our biggest infrastructure here in the town, and they have been let go. The people that put them in didn't properly prepare the substrate, and as a result, they're failing. We didn't properly maintain them after the fact. As a result, they're failing. To add more maintenance on to bad roads is like putting new linoleum over cracked linoleum. It will not work. And so to put the maintenance money into that, I think there's a lot of people that say you have to do it. You're going to put slurry over the cracks. It's going to crack in a few years. And as I said, less than 0.75% spent on an infrastructure investment of $150 million, you're never going to get back to the roads you fix first. And the roads you're going to work on are the main roads. Everything else is going to fall apart. So the only way to fix that is invest in road reconstruction. And so how you go about doing that, I know it'll be difficult, but it has to be done. Lastly, I have worked and lived in Europe for a number of years, and walking and bike riding is more a way of life there than it is here. And roundabouts are not only an effective way of moving traffic, saving time, money, fuel, reduction in accidents, it's also an effective way of allowing people or pedestrians across the street and the bicyclists, and I'm an avid cyclist, to use the roadways. And so if they're done right, they can always be, they're always a little more expensive, but they can be more aesthetically pleasing than a traditional intersection. So if we're looking at beautifying the town, this is a good way of considering. You could have a fountain in the middle, or a special tree, or a memorial, or whatever. But anyway, with that, I encourage you to keep going on the road maintenance and hopefully road reconstruction.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilman Hanson.
Just real quick, I see that Andrew probably came up with the language in the resolution that we're looking at to make it not sound as final by adding the language beginning in fiscal year 2013-14 and continuing annually thereafter until directed otherwise by the town council. And I think that gives us comfort in knowing that, what is being done is not engraved in stone for perpetuity.
Okay. Were you making the motion?
Okay.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, so move to approve Resolution 2013-02.
I'll second it.
Okay. And we went through speaker cards and Councilwoman Dickey?
Thank you, Mayor. We talked about this. Maybe I wasn't very successfully articulate with it, with some of the concerns that I have about the economic development aspect of this at the work study session. I made some copies of some stuff from our budget and other things like that to try and help illustrate what I say this time maybe a little bit better, and to make this a transparent discussion about a policy that we're moving into to our taxpayers. I was concerned that the resolution to fund payment management commits us to pay for it by including the removal of the funding for the economic development plan in the $90,000 there, and at the same time paying for the tourism from the downtown development funds in the suggested amount of $103,000. That means that we're using specific Avenue to Fountain area monies for a tourism effort that is for the entire town. And it also strengthens the commitment, seemingly, of this council of the $103,000 to go to tourism, even though the amount and the idea of where tourism is going to lay in the entire economic development plan is up for reevaluation. So I think if we're going to remove the $90,000 from the economic development plan until the plan is fully vetted and prioritized, with implementation that will be suggested by the proposed because it was a work study, but a proposed steering committee and the subcommittees, then why would we commit like this to only one part of the economic development plan, and doing so divert downtown resources that will make them unavailable for the plan that we asked to come back to us. So there's actually two things going on, and one is the use of the downtown development plan, which was a sales tax that was created for downtown development on August 3rd in 2000. Now I know we're saying that there may not be legal ramifications to this, but the intent was very clear. The quote from the minutes from that meeting in 2000 was, "We're designating 0.001% for downtown development." The town manager then listed where those funds could be used, and he said by improvement districts, parking, a linear mall, capital and operating costs that were vital interests in the viable and successful downtown area. And so then you fast forward to our own discussion a couple months ago, October 4th, where we were talking again about using the downtown funds. And from the minutes of that meeting, there are quotes that were several of us said, I was one of them, but we know that we could use this money for something else, but I'm hesitant to break this sort of honor that was established, sort of a promise, and honoring what past council members promised to do and told the people they would do. Another quote was that we know that a past council has made a commitment, and it's important to honor commitments. There's an expectation that if the dollars are there, they should be spent on this particular project. And another quote that was actually mine, which was saying that I agreed with not using the monies for another purpose, and that it's a pact in a way. So I looked at our budget also from this year, and I gave you guys this, and the part of the economic development plan that comes from the downtown fund, and if you look at how it's been used historically, it has only been used for this area, this specific downtown area. The page where it gives what we would like to come about from this expenditure, in this case $184,000 or so, and by the way, only $50,000 of that, or a little bit more, is the salary. But some of the things that we want to do, which I think are still relevant and will likely come out as a result of the economic development plan, is that this economic development plan was to align with the council's adopted downtown area specific plan. and that these monies were to be used to implement strategies for the retailers and businesses on the Avenue of the Fountains and other downtown property, and also to hold forums and such with the Avenue of the Fountains property owners and other downtown property. So there's two messages there. It's not only for downtown, but it will require resources to get there. So again, that's the part that I object to as far as using downtown development fund for that. Then we go to the idea of the economic development plan that we just had the report on. And so that process, that very recent discussion, that again was a work study session, but we had consensus at that meeting that we were not making specific funding recommendations until the proposed steering committee and the subcommittees had come back with a solid plan to go forward. And we just approved the minutes for that meeting, and it said there was a question, which I did ask the town manager, about whether the council would be looking into adding economic development staff. And the manager's response is that we need to focus first on the approach, look at the staffing and budget, and how to get there. And he was recommending that we not put the cart before the horse, and that we first have to find out what we want to do and what it will take to get it done, and then have the further discussion. And the Arizona Republic had an article about our meeting, and they described it by saying the town currently is operating without an economic development administrator. Staffing, organization, and funding to support the plan would be considered after it is approved, Mr. Buchanan said. And then, if you look at the budget that we had this year, and also was discussed at our retreat, is the budget for economic development, which is 89,904, which is the 90,000 that I believe not I believe, but that is being taken out of our budget for next year. So and then if you look at the idea of taking the money for just this one part, I just don't think we should be funding tourism which is coming down to looking like it could be about a sixth of the economic development effort in full from the downtown fund. The economic development plan that we originally looked at, that when Ken brought out the $50,000, this is all approved by us, had three initiatives: the downtown initiative, the tourism initiative, and the business attraction initiative. So even in this, which is townwide, it was 1/3. The meeting that we just had on the 3rd, where we had the presentation from SPAC and about the economic development, we had professional and technical, we had healthcare, finance, tourism, we added retail, we added education. So it's even a smaller portion of what may come out from this economic development plan. The other thing about taking the money from this fund is that we're thinking of using the downtown fund for the median, for the park, and we're really squeezing it, and we're doing a good job at trying to do that. And so to just kind of say, but $103,000 of the downtown fund is just going to go to this one potential part of economic development, I can't reconcile that. The other thing we talked about, obviously, is the intersection. We're going to be looking at costs, and when we say, well, what do we want to do for downtown, we're removing this tool from that. We have a sign, a light that we're talking about at Palisades, which is a big chunk of money. If we talked about doing something else with that intersection, which is part of the discussion that I've had with the town manager about, when we bring forward and start talking about Saguaro, what if there was a way to avoid having to have a light there? That's the dirty word, roundabout, but the fact is there's no maintenance for that, but there is for the traffic signals, and the traffic signals are part of pavement management plan that requires us to have enough money for the pavement management plan. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I would like to try to restore the funding for the ED and for the tourism, but not have it come out of the downtown fund, which then we get to the part of being $193 less than what we expect to take out for the pavement management. Obviously, we're showing a very big commitment to pavement management. We're January now, and we're going to be giving more than $800,000 between now and just this fiscal year towards it. And next year, we're talking $2 million. $1 million of it supposed to be coming from SIP, and $1 million of it coming from these various ways that we're making it work. So here's my question: if we're that tight that we couldn't do that, why are we going through the economic development plan scenario and exercise if there will be no money or resources to put towards it, or very little? So if you think that we can, I would like to preserve that money, and I don't want to take the money out of the downtown development fund. I don't feel like people really knew that's what we were doing. It was there, it wasn't in the paper, it was a work study session. I don't know that the merchants down there knew that we were thinking of doing that. I don't know if the greening people knew that, or the farmers market, or anybody that has an interest in the downtown, and that whether they were aware of the ramifications of this decision. I feel like we're creating almost a protected fund for a single sliver of the economic development plan, which has not been vetted or even brought back to us yet. So I guess if you have questions, I'm happy to try and hone down a little more from it, but I think we should keep the money in economic development if we're going to go through that exercise, and we should not be saying where it's going to go until we go through the whole exercise.
Madam Mayor.
Councilman Yates?
I'm not sure if this is directed to Mr. Buchanan or Andrew, but by moving the line item out of the general fund into the downtown fund, that just says the first $103,000, if we so choose to pursue the Visitor Bureau, that's where the first 103 comes from. It doesn't say that we have to spend $103,000. Is that correct?
It's a function of budget. You will be talking about that in budget annually.
But to answer my question, then, it's just there's a line item budget. We can next year or this year when the budget comes up, we can agree to fund it or not. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we're just moving in, because theoretically, using a business model, you use more like 3 to 6% of growth towards marketing and advertising. So if I'm not saying I do this, but if we bump the advertising or marketing or Visitors Bureau budget up to $300,000, then only a third's coming out of downtown. I'm not saying we would do that, but where I'm going with this is that $103,000, it's a not to exceed number. It doesn't mean we have to spend it. It just means the money that we were taking out of the general fund, the first $103,000 now comes out of the downtown fund. And likewise for economic development, correct?
It's not for economic development.
And did you want Councilman Elkey?
Basically, as I understand it, Ken, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're basically saying instead of taking the economic development tourism initiative appropriation, instead of taking that out of the general fund basket, we're just saying if we're going to spend money on it, it's going to come out of this basket. And the amount that's going to come out of this basket now is subject to council approval on a yearly basis. So it's not first $103,000 off the top comes from this. It's for future, if we're going to be taking funds, it's going to come out of this fund. However, if future council decides we want to take some out of this fund and out of the general fund, the council, as I understood, will have that discretion to do it. We're just moving it there because it's limited as far as what those funds can be spent for. And if I may continue, I just want to respond to some things that Councilmember Dickey said. When we did have an economic development director, a certain percentage of her salary was paid from that downtown excise tax fund. And if I could, do we know what percentage that was offhand? It was about 50-50?
50-50.
About 50-50? Okay. So presumably then 50% of that economic director's time was spent on things that would relate to the downtown area, and 50% was essentially the rest of the town. I don't know if that was always the case on a month-to-month or even a year-to-year basis. And I do appreciate and respect Councilmember Dickey's comments about what past councils have done and the votes that they've cast as to what these funds are doing. Because that's what we're talking about doing here tonight, is creating this pavement management. And we're hoping that the future councils continue to do that and they don't repeal it, 2, 4, 6 years down the road. For me, when we're looking at what the intent, and thank you for the handout, Jenny, one of the aspects that this downtown development or downtown excise tax fund could be used for was operation costs and vital interest in a viable and successful downtown area. And as an attorney, you always talk about interpretation and stuff like that, and I think that could apply to that. I do understand the reservation about putting it all in there. When I say all, meaning all of the economic development tourism initiative, putting it all in there. But I think we're in a situation where we have limited funds here in the general fund to do this. I want to be very clear that if this council does agree to put it all into the downtown excise tax fund, or the monies to be paid from there, that's no guarantee year after year after year that those monies are going to be paid as far as the amount. It's not $103,000 every year from this point on. It could be more, it could be less. And I think future councils have the ability and discretion to say, well, we'll just take $50,000 out of the the downtown excise tax fund, and now that the economy is doing a little bit better, we'll take $50,000 out of the general fund to pay for that. So I understand what you're saying, and I respect what you're saying as far as precedent is concerned. But at the end of the day, it is still the taxpayers' dollars. It's the sales tax. A portion goes to the general, and a portion goes to the downtown development. But I certainly respect your opinion.
And I would agree with what you said. I had basically the same notes as what Councilman Elsie just said, that part of the salary of our economic development director did come out of the downtown fund. There were other things that came out, her memberships and other types of expenses. I believe also at one time she was trying to fill office space in various parts of town, certainly not limited to the downtown. We have quite a few areas where there's office space. So the money has been used in the past for other than just the avenue. And I believe the downtown area is a little bit bigger than just the area, but that particular street. But I think that had already set a precedent that the money was used for other areas in town.
Lori, she was the economic development director, all economic development, not just tourism, which is just a section of it. And so if half of her salary was going to that, it was, interpreted that amount of money was to be spent downtown, whether it was for events or for offices or for other things like that. It wasn't just specifically for tourism. And then you take the other side of it, you're taking money out of the downtown development fund to pay for golf and weddings and things like that. So how are you reconciling that we're breaking from what that tax was imposed, called a downtown excise tax? So if you're paying for tourism for that has nothing to do with downtown necessarily. I mean, you're not saying pay half of it. You're taking something and setting a huge precedent by saying from now on that is going to be taken out of here. And on the other hand, if we're not, and this is all just, we can change at any time, and what the heck, then what are we doing? Why are we down to the penny here worried about $1 million, $750,000? If we're going to take $1 million out of the SIP next year, say it's $1,190,000, and put all the money back so that when we get the product back from the steering committee and SPAC about economic development, then we say, hey, this is what we have to do with economic development. If they come back and say, oh, look, we have something going on that we can use, and we think we should allocate our resources this way, and we've already made that decision to allocate these resources to one part of the plan that we haven't even gotten back yet, and not even 2 weeks ago, or about 2 weeks ago, sat here and said, we will not make decisions on how we're going to fund economic development until we get it back. And then 2 weeks later, we're taking a little piece of it, but a lot of money, and paying for it in a way that I don't think we should be paying for it.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Are there any speaker cards on this? No? Then, can I have a roll call vote?
No, I have an amendment then, please, if that's okay, but is everybody done discussing this? Can I make an amendment? I make an amendment to,
Vote on the original motion first, or?
Amendment.
Make an amendment, okay. You
I
make
just
your amendment?
have my say, that's it. I'd like to move to delete section 7 in its entirety, and section 9C, lines 4, 5, and 8. And what that does is it restores the economic development money and all of that, the $193,000 back to the general fund.
Is there a second on the motion?
I'll second it for further discussion. Hopefully that's not needed, or just to bring it to a vote and bring it to closure. Thank you.
Is there any discussion on the amendment?
Mayor? Okay.
Real quick, Mr. Buchanan, the $1.5 million, as far as the maintenance program, wasn't that at the very lowest end on what we really need? I remember sitting in a lot of these meetings, we were looking at 2.5 is really what we need. What would that do to us, taking $200,000 from the...
Just reducing the amount annually. Because I don't have any other place that I can take that from. We looked at everything we could.
Mayor?
Thank you.
The amount that would be changed, obviously we have a $2 million budget for next year's pavement management. We have over $800,000 this year, we have $2 million next year. So,
on an annualized basis.
no, just for next year, which is really what I'm talking about, because next year is going to be when we're going to be wanting to do an economic development plan. So if we have zero money to have even this little bit of flexibility, why are we doing the economic development plan? What are we going to fund the recommendations that come back from them? I did have some ideas on how we might be able to make it up. We could reprogram the million from the SIP and make it $1,190,000. That would just be for 13-14, and that would fill it in. If, I don't want to say it, but if the bond doesn't pass, then it kind of changes the dynamic of the pavement management, so there would probably be some other discussion about that next year anyway. I forgot I gave you this policy statement from the league about the HERF funding, because one of their proposals for everybody, for the cities to do, would be to ask the legislature to discontinue the diversions of the highway user revenue fund monies to fund the operations of state agencies. And then I gave you a little chart that you really can't read very well, but basically that's over $100,000. If the legislature didn't take it, then we'd have that. So I think there are other ways to try to get that money back, and to act like this isn't a commitment, because I think we have made a commitment to do an economic development plan and to try and restore that money back into the general fund so it's available to us when we get that plan back. I really feel that there will be a way to make it work out as far as making up whatever this $190,000 is. I just don't think we should be taking it out.
Can I have a roll call, or I have a motion, I have a second, a roll call vote please on the amendment.
Councilmember Henson?
Nay.
Councilmember Brown?
Nay.
Councilmember Elton? Councilmember Yates?
Nay.
Vice Mayor Lejeune? Councilmember Dickey?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanagh?
Nay.
1-6, Mayor.
Then we'll go back to the original motion. I have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, can I get a roll call on Councilman Yates' motion? Is that yours, or?
Councilperson Hanson.
Councilperson Hanson's motion.
I second.
And you seconded it. I knew it was one of you.
Mayor,
Switch.
if I could just make a quick comment on Councilwoman Hanson's motion. As many of us recall in our work study session, we talked extensively about changing that language, and that language has been changed, as Councilwoman Hanson has pointed out. And I believe that language does give us the flexibility that we need, even going into our retreat in this fiscal year. I was extremely sensitive to Councilwoman Dickey's point of view on this. Probably would have leaned in that direction if this flexibility wasn't here. So I would concur with Councilwoman Hanson that the flexibility in our language does allow us to take another look at this. Thank you.
Have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Elke? Councilmember Hanson?
Aye.
Councilmember Yates?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lejay? Councilmember Brown?
Aye.
Councilmember Dickey?
Aye.
Mayor Kavanagh?
Aye.
Mayor 7-0.
Consideration of the addition of strategic directions, CRA EV9 and EV10 to strategic plan 2010 as recommended by the Strategic Planning Advisory Commission. Ken?
Mayor Kavanagh, members of the council, you have before you, you had actually previously and asked that the SPAC come back with with some recommendations and some strategies that would go with the three recommendations that they have. This is on an annual basis that you ask through a strategic planning process. You asked the SPAC to come back with some considerations, and you have them in front of you tonight. The chairman is here tonight to answer any questions that you might have or further discussion with this. There is a recommendation to approve these.
Any discussion?
Thank you for the detail.
We have a member of our chair is here from SPAC, Nick Supporter. And
Peter Bordeaux, yes.
Yes, Peter is here also. Can I, thank you.
Motion to approve the addition of strategic directions, CR8, EV9, and EV10 to Strategic Plan 2010.
Second.
Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Any further council discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Next one.
Hey, Cecil, go ask Dennis what he's...
Thanks for hanging in there, Nick and Peter. Semi-annual report on the progress of implementing the council's strategic plan goals and operational priorities for fiscal year 2012-13. 10.
Mayor Kavanagh, members of the council, again, semi-annual report. There is no action that's required. Staff will be happy to answer any questions that you might have regarding the report.
Any questions?
Thank you for the report.
Mayor,
No action is needed on this. Go ahead.
Mayor, if I may, in addition to Councilwoman Hanson's comment about the report and thanking you for the report, I'd like to also extend my thanks to staff for taking action on the initiatives and making very good progress. I don't see any need to go down and drill down and talk about each and every one of them. It's really clear from your report. So, Ken, thanks for the hard work, and thank you, staff, on our behalf. Thank you.
Discussion with possible action to staff related to any item included in the League of Arizona Streets and Towns weekly legislative bulletin or relating to any action proposed or pending before the state legislature. Ken?
Mayor Kavanagh, members of the council, the only thing that's out there was the PPT. You have the correspondence that we did with all of our representatives to the legislature. That's the activity that we've seen so far. There's very little activity that's going on with the legislature at this point in time, as you can see by the report from the league.
Okay, and I think that was a great letter. You put together the points that we talked about, and
And we'll thank Julie, because Julie did the body of the letter. I just signed it.
thank you, Julie. All right. Okay, then we don't need to go any further on that. Any other, do you have anything else?
I have nothing else at 10 o'clock tonight, Mayor.
Thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody, for hanging in there. Wow. Firm.